Did he?
We'll call to order the March 10th, 2020 full City Council. The clerk will call the roll for attendance.
Anderson Burgos,
Here.
Bartley,
Here.
Graney,
Here.
Hernandez,
Here.
Leahy,
Present.
LeBron Martinez,
Here.
Lisi, McGee,
Here.
McGivern,
Here.
Murphy,
Here.
Sullivan, Tallman,
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
In the City of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
Before we get started on the agenda, we have a very special night, beginning of the night. So I'll take a motion.
Mr. President,
Yep.
could we suspend the rules, go out of order, take up agenda item 51, please?
Motion is suspend the rules, go out of order to item 51. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This is from Councilor Bartley, in keeping with the tradition of the City Council started in 2016. Order that the members of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee be invited in for a special presentation from the City of Holyoke at the first regular City Council meeting in March. Please invite, and then it's a list of all the awardees. A special invitation hereby made to James Kelly, President and CEO of the Polish National Credit Union, 2020 Marshal, so on and so forth. So I will turn it over to Councilor
Motion to
Bartley.
receive and adopt.
Motion is to
Second.
receive and adopt. With that, I turn over to Councilor Bartley. I'd like to ask Councilor Bartley to come up for a minute and say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, honorable colleagues, Madam Clerk, distinguished guests. Welcome to the Holyoke City Council. Little did any of us know when we as City Council started this tribute 5 years ago that one day we would host the longest St. Patrick's Parade in the Commonwealth right here in City Hall. But here we are. Please give a hearty applause to the Holyoke Caledonian Pipe Band. On behalf of the membership of the City Council, the City Council President will present a token of our appreciation on behalf of the City Council to the Holyoke Caledonian Pipe Band for its wonderful music these past several years. Mr. President, I'll be very brief. This is just a chance for us of Irish descent and for all Holyokers to offer a small token of thanks to the parade president, the parade committee, the Grand Marshal, the JFK Award winner, other award honorees, and the Colleens, including the Grand Colleen. Each of you have offered so much, and we, the members of the City Council, want to reiterate what all of our constituents feel by a simple thank you. These proclamations to my left, which the City Council President will pass out at the appropriate time, are presented by us and created here locally by the mom of our administrative assistant. So thank you again, Mrs. Allen. Before I turn this over to the parade president, Mark Joyce, former Ward 7 City Councilor, who, by the way, has already been warned about the speaking time limit, as apparently he wasn't forewarned at the log cabin. McGee's got the gavel, so you'll hear one way or another. I want to recognize that not only is this a special day because of the parade committee, but this is also the birthday of our Grand Marshal. With that, the Holyoke Caledonian Pipe Band has a special song for Attorney John J. Driscoll.
Taking the gavel and I'm putting it out of his reach. Don't worry.
Have a seat.
Don't worry. Yeah, please have a seat is right. I don't have any prepared remarks. Many of you, all of you, I suspect, know by now what we've gone through today. This has been a day unlike any other that I've ever experienced, and I hope that nobody else ever has to experience it. A lot of the media was asking a lot of questions to a lot of folks, and I was one of them today. And they said, how do you feel? And I said, I feel awful. I feel terrible. But I know that this is a group that when you're given lemons, you'll make lemonade. And in talking to a lot of our fellow members this afternoon, it was very clear to me that we've got a lot of different ideas how we can make this still no parade, no road race, but all the other events are going on. There's no reason at this point for that to change. This is an extremely fluid situation. None of us are healthcare professionals, but this situation is changing not just daily, but almost by the hour. And just if you read the paper and you listen to the news or you Google it or whatever you need to do to find out more information about this virus, we're very much in uncharted waters. So what I say tonight is all on the condition that things can change, and they can change very quickly. From the moment that we had the press conference this afternoon, and I appreciate the mayor asking me to be a part of it, shortly thereafter the governor declared a state of emergency in Massachusetts. So, and I want to make it clear that the parade committee hasn't canceled anything. The city of Holyoke canceled the parade and the road race. So all these nasty emails that people are sending out to different members of the committee, me in particular, it's not us. Although I think ultimately I am convinced that in the science of this, and ultimately if we had to make the call, we would have probably had to do the same thing. So by doing it today, it gives people more time. It gives local businesses the time to cancel their contract with large tents that they were putting up. and any number of things. So time is our friend at this point, and I'm glad we have a few more days. But that's enough from me tonight. But let me just give a list of what is still happening. And as I went through my phone tonight to look at my schedule, we're missing the two big ones. There's no question about it. But I want to put a plug in tonight for Friday night. Jeff Walsh from our committee has been plugging the Marshall Mania concert at the Warehouse. The doors open at 6:30. Wouldn't it be a great thing if Holyoke pulled together and we really supported these things like to the nth degree? So the Marshall Mania is Friday night. The Size, who many of you grew up listening to in Holyoke, are the featured group. Eddie Jakowski will be the first beginning of the show, and Eddie's dad, I used to sit next to his father over here when Jimmy was a city councilor. South Hadley Irish Night is this Saturday, the 14th, and that's still going, and they've got tickets available. Our Grand Marshal, Jay Driscoll, is the chairperson of the AOH Communion Breakfast. That is this coming Sunday, 8 o'clock Mass at St. Jerome's and 9 o'clock at the Warehouse, with a great speaker, former Boston Police Commissioner William Evans. So that'll be an interesting dynamic with him. I think he'll have some interesting points to make to us about what it means to have an epidemic, a pandemic. I don't know what the right word is, but there's a demic out there that we need to respond to. The Past President's Raffle is next Wednesday, the 18th. Somebody's going to walk away with $15,000 or a trip to Ireland for 6 people. So that's at the Warehouse next Wednesday night, the 18th, as I said. The Elks Irish Night is next Thursday night, the 19th, up at our Holyoke Lodge of Elks. Friday, I've been kind of dreading Friday because that is the Past President's Luncheon, where the past presidents get to roast this year's president. And I don't know what they could roast me about. I mean, I'm going to go down in our illustrious history as the only president never to have a parade. And it's not for lack of effort, but that's probably how it's going to go, but that's okay. So that'll be an interesting luncheon at Schlanta. Saturday, of course, the road race is off, but the wreath laying at the JFK Memorial up on Appleton Street by Holy Cross Church will take place 4:30, 4:45. I think we'll say 4:30 for now. I couldn't get out of City Hall today without the diocese calling, and the bishop's mass that's scheduled for 5:30 at St. Jerome's on Saturday the 21st is going forward. That will be followed by the bishop's reception at the Log Cabin, where at that event we honor our national award winner, who is, for the first time in my memory, is here tonight, and we are thrilled that he has joined us. Sunday morning, as you know, is the ambassador's breakfast that usually starts quarter of eight, 8 o'clock. That's currently scheduled for the senior center. I don't know this, but I would be surprised if Boston Mayor Marty Walsh would come out for that or could come out for that. I'm certainly hoping he does, but he may not be able to. But we'll have a party anyway, and I'm not sure how we'll do it, but we'll do it. We're having a meeting of the the board of directors, I should say, of the parade committee, and a few other individuals who are chairs of very important and large committees that have great implications for everything that we do, Thursday night. And that we're hoping to put a frame of reference together so that our regular meeting on Sunday afternoon, we can have a plan kind of to go forward and see where we're going to go. And then finally, it's not for anybody here other than parade committee members, but on the 27th, that Friday, that's our party after the parade for the parade committee. And it's the celebration could be muted, but I suspect it won't be too muted by that point, because we've all gone through this, will have gone through it for a period of time. But I want to thank again the mayor for his grace in inviting me to be part of those discussions. I'm a great believer in science. I'm also a great believer in hope. But when I'm looking at all of the statistics and all of the forecasts from the health professionals really throughout the world, I think this was the right decision. I don't want to, thank you. I don't want to, and that's just me speaking. I didn't poll the committee or anything else, but Intellectually, I felt good that the decision was correct. Every other way, I felt terrible. And I told all the reporters that because this doesn't come along too often. I'm looking out in the audience as my my daughter was near tears as we announced this today, and she's not here now because she was near tears today. But anyway, enough of that. My job really is to introduce our award winners and to have them accept your appreciation, and I certainly accept your appreciation. And I'd like to start with Jay. Thank you. With my good friend and local attorney, our 2020 Grand Marshal, following in the footsteps of his father from 60 years ago, John J. Driscoll, who is our Grand Marshal, and he's a very, very deserving one. Jay? David, go ahead. And we do have a treat tonight. As I said earlier, we almost, well, I don't think we've ever had the National Award winner, the John F. Kennedy Award winner, present for something like this or present before the weekend. Dave Glidden got word this afternoon that from the Grand Marshal that the parade had been canceled, the road race had been canceled, and he immediately saw to it that he got in his car. He got past Hartford before the traffic jams. And when I walked in tonight, I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised to see him. And he is just a really, really deserving winner of this award. David is not only a successful and a noted banker, but he's a philanthropist, he's a volunteer, he's a member of the National Board of the American Cancer Society. He and his wife, Michelle, have been great, great volunteers for that organization for many years. And more importantly, I think they've raised buckets of money for the American Cancer Society to try and fight this insidious disease that affects all of us. But David, it gives me great pleasure to present you this proclamation from the City Council and to have you with us tonight. Our next award winner that's with us tonight, we have a few that couldn't be with us, but is Bryn Gillis, who is the 2020 Thomas F. Rowan Award winner. I introduced her mistakenly as Bryn Gillis. She is Bryn Fayer Gillis. Some of you might remember her father, who used to sit right over there, and he and I would look back and forth and figure out what in the hell is going on here tonight. But Bryn is a longtime member of the committee. She's in charge of music this year with her co-chair. But she is somebody that really, with young family, it's very difficult. Many of us went through that years ago. But Bryn is really a go-to person, and she does a great job on this. So Bryn, congratulations on the Rowan Award. Johnny D's the camera.
He's video.
Okay? Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, Brian. Our next award winner is Brian Donahue, who is the co-chair of the road race. And Brian is someone that really has helped to bring even more professionalism to our road race, which is regarded as a world-class 6.262 miles or K. I never get those mixed. I don't run these often, so miles. 6.2, 10K, all right, 10K, whatever. But Brian has done a great job in doing that, along with his co-chair, Jim Wildman, who's in the back, but who's a previous winner of this award. But this is for raising funds for the parade committee. Our largest fundraiser is the road race, and when it's canceled, that's one of the things we'll be discussing in the next couple of days, But Brian is just a very, very deserving winner, and I'm proud to present this O'Connell Award citation. Our other award winner from the parade committee he's from Chicopee, so I kind of sometimes it's hard to say these things, but he's such a good guy. He's such a good guy, and he's the kind of member that every organization wants and should have. He does anything and everything, and he does it well, and he does it on time. And I won't say under budget necessarily, but he probably does that as well that I just don't know about. But Johnny Beaulieu from Chicopee is our 2020 Daniel J. Gallivan Award winner for outstanding service to the committee from a regional committee member. We used to be called out of town Chicopee. What can I say? Right? Congratulations, Johnny. And he still likes me after that. So. All right. We have a number of other winners that could not be with us tonight for obvious reasons. I'm going to talk about Eileen Kern, our 2020 Citizenship Award winner. I think many of you, if not all of you, know Eileen from her years at Channel 40 as a broadcaster and newscaster. She obviously went to Boston and did the same for a number of prominent stations in Boston. And she's now the Northeast Regional Director of the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. And she has two aunts who I believe they both have passed away, but they lived with MS, and that's a cause near and dear to her heart. So she, not more importantly, but otherwise, she has also been a member of the Colleen's Court many years ago. She was a hostess for the Colleen contest, the coronation ball. And she just is a member of the Kern family that has been so good to Holyoke and so good to the parade committee. So I love Eileen. I'm sorry she can't be here, but I'll be talking to her later tonight, and I'm hoping that she will still be coming up. I know that for a fact, but I'll make sure that she gets this. Okay, thank you. Ooh, I'll just share my. Yeah, and the other award winner that's not here, that before we get to our beautiful Colleens, Marty Walsh isn't here. But I got to tell you, last week or 2 weeks ago, we went to Boston, a number of us, for the announcement at Boston City Hall, and they treated us like royalty. It was unbelievable how nice they were, and we're waiting in his waiting room, and there's just people. And when we got in, we were like 10 minutes late, but no big deal. But we got in, and he took more time with us than any of us could have ever hoped for. And then at the end, when we were done with the press conference and everything else, we went back in his office, gave us all pens. I thought we were going to, it's like the White House, when they sign a bill. And he could not have been nicer, and he knew about Holyoke, and he asked about Holyoke, and he was really looking forward to coming out. I'm hoping he comes. We don't know. It's much too early to make those, or for anybody to figure out what's going to really happen, but we'll be doing that hopefully in the next few days. But he was a gentleman, and he was excited, and he was a most deserving winner of this award. He has done extensive work in Northern Ireland. Many of you may have read that he and the government in Belfast have put a sister city relationship together between Belfast and Boston, and that's an unusual community for those of us from Western Mass to be sister cities with. It's usually Dingle or Kerry or those like that in the western part of the state. But he chose Belfast, and that's because they had troubles, a lot of problems over the years, and his work has helped us to solve that in some ways, not always, obviously. But he's the only other one I think that can't be with us tonight. Now we get to honor our colleagues. No, I'm gonna call, if I could, on Kathy Dolcinos, our parade mom, to introduce our colleagues, and a special welcome, please, to our colleagues who, this year at least, are not going to have the chance to ride down the street on the float, which is pretty devastating, for young ladies that have contested for these awards and these honors, to not go down the parade route on a float is, you don't get the whole effect. You really don't. But let's make it as great a weekend as we possibly can for them and everybody else, okay? Thank you.
This is breaking my heart, of course. I'm going to have a hard time doing this, but I'm going to do it. I want you girls to know how proud I am of you, how you're handling this, because I'm not doing very well. It's my distinct honor to introduce you to this 2020 amazing young ladies, the Grand Colleen in her court, Trish Harridan, Haley Dussault, sorry, Emily Kuchar, and Emily is also Miss Congeniality. Natalie Mako was unable to be here, but she's in our 2020 Grand Colleen, my sweetheart, Maureen McDermott.
Do you want to? Thank you.
I'm Emily. Thank you so much.
Haley, I was trying to get all of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Mark, do you want to come up and get a picture with him?
Thank you for honoring all
Hold
of
on,
us.
just
Very-
one brief moment. I didn't gavel him. Wouldn't have been nice. Not on today. There's one other one that has to be handed out, and it's to Mark Joyce for your outstanding leadership as the committee president. Tough day, but leading up to it, you've always, you're in my ward, and you took care of me. You've always been a friend, a neighbor, but you're a professional. And we can't thank you enough for your leadership with regard to this. We truly are sorry for everything, but, I wish you nothing but the best, and we can't thank you enough for everything. So for you. So now I will turn this back over to Councilor Bartley to fire it. Lead us out, open the front doors, please. Who's going to get the gate for them? want to thank Councilor Bartley as well as the full city council for that, but we're not done yet. We also have another very special guest here tonight. We did file an order last time. It was unanimous by the full council to recognize a gentleman. I asked Ryan if he can go get our special guest. For those at home and in the audience, it is my privilege to recognize Ronald Dietrich for 60 years. Let me say that again, not 6, not 10, 60 years of dedicated service with the Holyoke Auxiliary Police and working on the parade route for 60 years. Thank you for everything that you have done for this city. Thank you for being a friend to me and all your words of encouragement. I couldn't be happier today than to give this to you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and city councilors, for this special honor. I served under 12 mayors and 11 chiefs of police. And with that, I had 44 years with the road race and right now 59 years with the parade. This year, I can't add any more numbers to it. Also, we are the 2008 recipients for the Citizenship Award, and that's shared with the police and fire departments. There's only one other thing. I want to point out Colonel Jean Dietrich. She has 35 years of service. She has many titles, but the title I like the most is that of wife. She is the beacon of my life. Also, we have Deputy Chief George Kiakis. He's Chief of Operations, and starting today, in addition to what we did in the past, we're pretty busy. I'll be meeting with the police department tomorrow morning. However, they were supposed to be here at this point, and they had quite a day. So in any event, Deputy Chief I keep him quite busy, and he doesn't know what's coming. However, he is the 2019 recipient of the Public Safety Award from the Veterans of Holyoke, and that happened in November. So congratulations again. Would the auxiliaries that are seated stand, and if you're standing, raise your hand so you can be recognized. We have 68 members, and that totals 594 years of volunteer service. And I think that's pretty awesome. Also, I have members of the family and some friends. Would you raise your hand so you can be recognized? I also want to thank Chief Febo and the 3 captains and all the officers of the Holyoke Police Department. Like I said, I'll be meeting with most of them tomorrow. However, they had quite a day today. So we all did. So in any event, in closing, I just want to mention that Holyoke is the best city by a damn sight.
That's the Winnie one.
Yeah. All right, so can we have a motion, because we have someone here?
To adjourn? Second.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's go. To go out of order to item 27.
Here,
Any
second.
motion?
Second.
All those in favor, all those opposed. Order that the city council vote to approve an exemption under Mass General Law 268A, Section 20B, conflict of interest law for Bruce Frey. He is an employee of the Hoyok Public Schools, and he wants to work on the Council on Aging, so you need a special municipal employees exemption, which is what we're looking for him.
Make a motion to receive and adopt.
Motion
Second.
is to receive and adopt. Everyone have any questions or any?
I just have
Yep, Counselor Leahy.
just a small editorial. I know him. I know the family. I know them all very well. Extremely hardworking people. I think he's going to do a fantastic job, and I'm honored to support this tonight.
Oh, if there's no other discussion, motion is to receive and adopt. Do you need a roll call? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved. You're all set, Bruce. Thank you. So we'll go back to the start, which is item 1, which was laid on the table from Brendan Murphy McGee and Ryan Allen.
Everyone with the table?
Second.
Motion approved to table December 17th and February 4th minutes. Motion is to
Motion receive and adopt?
Motion is to
Second.
receive and adopt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public comment, we do have one. It's Lisa Sylvester, am I saying that right, or? Okay. And address, please? Come up to the mic, please, if you will.
Sorry, I thought it was on.
No problem. What's the address?
Is 80 Russellville Road in Southampton.
All right, hold on one second.
Motion to suspend.
Motion is suspend the rules, allow someone out of town to speak. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? To you.
I'm number 19 on the agenda for the approval of a street vendor license for the food truck. It's a renewal of last year on the corner of Hamden and Maple.
What's the name of the company? I'm sorry.
The Grill is the food truck.
Which one was it?
So we're looking to have the same permit approved as we had last year with just one additional day added. Instead of Monday through Wednesday, we want to do Monday through Thursday. Same time, 11 to 3.
Mr. President, motion to go out of order, suspend the rules, go out of order, take up agenda item 19, please.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up item 19. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This is a petition from Lisa as a street vendor license. This is just a renewal at the corner of Hamden and Maple, of which it's a food trailer to operate 2 to 3 days a week between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., correct?
Oh, it is 10 on there? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was 11.
But it says 10.
Okay.
So in case you want to park and, set up,
Okay.
you got plenty of time. Any discussion? Counselor Bartley.
So what I heard the petitioner say, and I'm ready to make the amendment, is to amend her license to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the aforesaid hours that the city council president just stated.
Second.
10 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
4.
Yes.
Oh, 3.
No, 3.
I'm sorry. So 10 a.m. to 3 PM, Monday through Thursday.
All right, so motion is to amend to allow for 4 days from 10 to 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This is to grant the renewal. All those in favor? All opposed? You don't need a roll call for that, I don't think. No. It's all set.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There is no further public comment. So that one is done. 2 is a communication from the mayor, a letter appointing Christine of 87 Beach Street to serve. So this would go to
Public
Public
service.
Service. All those in favor? All opposed? A letter, another one appointing Jose from 610 County Road to serve on Park and Recs Commission. So that would go to Public Service.
Public service.
All those in favor?
All right.
4 is also another appointment for the Historical Commission. So Public Service, all those in favor? Opposed? And 5 is a reappointment of Mr. Carl Eager of 1966
Make the
Northampton
motion
Street.
reconfirm.
Second.
Motion is to reappoint Mr. Eager. It will serve as a 5-year term, which will expire November 1st, 2025. All those in favor? All those opposed? 6 is a appointment of the fire chief to the emergency management. So that would go to Public Service, or do you just want to do it now?
President,
Yep, Counselor Bartley.
I think we had a communication during the week that they were looking for an alternate for that position.
Yeah, but I think they have to change something in order to do that.
We changed his contract. So would the president like to table this for now, or
Do you want to table it or send it to Public Service, or
whatever you want to do? Whatever the.
Service.
Public
send it to
service?
Public Service?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And we'll see what they're looking to do, at least the committee can get the report. 7 is from the legal department. It's the memorandum of agreement between the city and local police officers, Local 388, Finance.
Finance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8 is the appointment of the tax collector, Katie Jakowski, 198 Allen Street. It is a 3-year term which will expire January 2023.
Make a motion to take off the table and approve the, and
Make a motion
appoint
is-
Mr. Sikowski.
Second.
Take it off the table and, yep, and go to a first ballot.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So first ballot, the clerk will call the roll. Guess what? The clerk made me pull the name. I pulled myself. So I will go
time.
first.
Oh,
First time in history. No, so,
Reverse order?
is there first, so no, I'll go.
It's all good.
So
Throw
any
it, hey.
votes tonight, it'll start here because I pulled my name from the can. So with that, the clerk will call the roll.
McGee,
Kay Jakowski.
McGivern,
Catherine Jakowski?
Murphy,
Catherine Jakowski.
Sullivan,
Kate Jakowski.
Tallman,
Catherine Jakowski.
Bacon,
Catherine Jakowski.
Anderson Burgos,
Katie Jakowski.
Bartley,
Kate Chakowski.
Graney,
Catherine Jakowski?
Hernandez,
Catherine Jakowski.
Leahy,
Ms. Catherine Jakowski.
LeBron Martinez,
Catherine Jakowski.
Lisi,
Kate Jakowski.
Katie Jakowski appointed on the first ballot.
For your vote, you approved her for a 3-year term. No other question? Okay. 9 is the regular minutes of February 18th. Motion to receive or any corrections or
Yeah, no, motion received, adopt.
motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10 is a communication from Counselor Bartley regarding the propane rollover.
Motion received under discussion, please.
Motion is received. Under discussion, Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, just as, I didn't want to let this go, just to, you know, it's a history, so we have it at least marked in our agenda going forward. So, this is a game we're playing. So I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's a game we're playing. Yeah, the propane trucks go through Holyoke anyhow? Of course they do. Well, we now know that we have a propane truck sitting down on Canal Street that is basically pumping in propane to service the heating needs of a pretty major marijuana vendor. And we also know that propane trucks roll over, and by the grace of God, we didn't have a massive explosion in the community field area. Just total luck. Why that didn't happen, how this happened, we don't know. But propane trucks can be dangerous. Top of that, Mr. President, guess what? It's a fossil fuel. Mr. President, it's even a dirtier fossil fuel than natural gas. We heard the Parade Committee president say he likes to talk about science. That's what science says, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, we now have this in our record, and we won't lose this to our collective memories. You know, we'll remember this. Let's just sort of stay on top of this as best we can. And I thank you, Mr. President. Thank the council.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, and just to add to the severity of what Councilor Bartley said, West Side Finishing is looking to expand in Holyoke. They've looked at several pieces of real estate. There's no gas available for the expansion of their company. There's another business that manufactures custom baseball bats out in Belchertown, looking to move to Holyoke. No natural gas available for them.
Any further discussion? Yeah, West Side Finishing, people should go visit them. We had a tour down there, Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Amazing what they do, but at the same time, if you listen to their staff, a vast majority of them walk to work. So it's right within the area that the owners have said, great employees, right next to the business. We need to help them, so.
Mr. President, will you just remind the council the location of West Side Finishing?
I don't know off the top of my head,
Would it be the
Counselor.
flats of Holyoke?
Yep,
Yes,
yep.
yes.
Would it be it would be in the flats of Holyoke?
Right near the school.
Possibly an area that maybe could use some economic development, but, you know, what do I know?
All right, so a motion is to receive, just receive, Counselor, and send to committee?
Yeah,
or-
just to receive.
Motion is just to receive. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
11 and 12 as a package, they're both minutes.
Motion is
Second.
suspend rules, take up as package, 11 and 12. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
to receive.
It's receive. It's the Board of Health minutes from January 9th, and then the Fire Commission minutes, January 16th. Motion is to receive both. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Petitions, 13 is a petition for a special permit for Milltown Agriculture LLC. It's an ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 14 is another petition for Tigertown LLC, a new special permit for 56 Jackson Street. Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 15 is a petition for a special permit for Amazon for a long-term storage intent at 489 Whitney Ave.
DGR, Mr. President.
Motion is to DGR. All those in favor?
Aye.
16 is a petition for a pole and wire location.
16, 17, and 18 as a package.
So motion is take up
Second.
16, 17, 18 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? These are all for petition for pole and wire locations. Motion is to,
Receive and set up the public
Public
hearing
hearing.
for the
motion
next
is
meeting.
receive, set up public hearing for next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President,
Yes.
just through the president to the administrator, do we have time to set up a public hearing if it's in 2 weeks? Okay, so
So
if I could just amend that, because that's a good order by Council Lisi, just amend it to the as soon as practicable. Because it doesn't sound like we can do it at the next city council
So
meeting.
we need April.
I think so, because it has to be 14 and then 7 days.
So do the second meeting in April?
Okay.
The first meeting would be fine because our next city council meeting is on the 24th, and then we have the Tuesday, the 31st.
All right, so first meeting in April. So it's public hearing for the next meeting, which is the first meeting in April. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 19, we did. President's report, I'll be quick. Counselor Bartley reached out to us. I'm not sure, Counselor, if you said it in your speech, it's loud in here. But the Flower Fund did donate $50 to the pipe band, the Caledonian Pipe Band. We want to thank everyone for doing that. It's amazing what they do when they come in here and how they set up and play the beautiful music. I also want to thank Counselor Bartley for once again setting this up. He went out, did all the legwork to get them in here, came early to help set them up and make sure it went according to plan, and then getting all the awardees in here, and to Ryan for getting all those citations done for everyone in proclamations. To both of you, thank you very much. I totally appreciate what you have done and what you have brought to the city council. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done.
As we all know, don't want to beat it to death, but the road race and parade have been canceled. We all did receive that notice, so for anyone at home who is watching, just another, we have to give the notice out as to that. If there are any questions, you can call the mayor's office or reach out to the police department for updates as to what's going on. Any updates from anyone else? I know it's been a tough day. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, I do want to beat a dead horse because this is worth talking about. In fact, it's so worth talking about. The Donahue Institute at UMass did a study some time ago, and this study is often referenced by myself. Councilor McGivern referenced it last week, and of course, the mayor does a good job on referencing it well. And it went over many different items of Western Mass, such as lodging, the spectator spending, the actual parade committee itself and how much it spends, and the economic development and growth it brings to Western Massachusetts. And it's an incredible economic driver. This parade started back in 1952 with a loan of $200, just a loan of $200, and the parade is now, according to the Donahue Institute, from that $200 in 1952, and this study was completed in 2011, brings in $20.5 million into the surrounding area. So this parade is not just a parade, it's an economic driver. This was supposed to be the 69th parade and the 45th road race. Having close to 7,000 people, north of 6,500 people in this community running and enjoying our city streets with our shamrocks on the streets, it just tells us we are Shamrock people. The reason this started is because of tradition, culture, history, and family values. However, it's morphed into much, much more, where it generates money for every sort of business out there. This is a sad day, not only for the people who, such as myself and all the people that you saw that were in this room earlier that have been working diligently putting on the parade. And this is obviously a 12-month endeavor, and we put our heart and soul into it, making sure that the road race, the parade, and all the ancillary events go off without a hitch. But we want to make sure that not only are we making money for the community and the communities, but we're also having a fun time and making sure that there's smiles on children's faces and people's faces as well. We just want to make sure that the people are having an excellent time. This is much more than we ever thought it would be. It's a shame that today it got canceled. However, I watched the press conference, and exactly what Chief Febo and Chief Preskopowski, exactly what they're saying. I was trying to think of an argument. I couldn't think of an argument to any of their points. They had to do what's in the best interest of our workers, our employees, and quite frankly, the people of Holyoke. And I applaud them. It's a tough decision. They did a fantastic decision. I think, just hopefully this doesn't affect us as it's affecting other people in other communities and other countries. But having said that, there's still going to be a lot of entertainment throughout the weekend. We're missing the parade and the road race. However, there's a lot still going on. So I encourage people to get involved and have a good time. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor McGivern.
Just like to echo Councilor Leahy's words and salute not only the president of the parade committee, but the entire parade committee for the work they did this year. It's unfortunate, but our emergency managers and the mayor made the correct decision with the circumstances in front of them and did it in a timely fashion to allow people to make adjustments to what they spend in terms of trying to do their business during the weekend and what the parade committee has to do to bring people into the area. I can only echo the President Mark Joyce's words and the list of events that possibly are still on. if they can pull those events off, support them. If it's one or two, or anybody that's listening, try to make the efforts to go to either to hear the local band known as the Size at the warehouse, one of the dinners, or any of the events that may still be going, and just let the parade committee know that we appreciate their work, and in doing so, help them get through this, which is going to become an economic issue, but certainly help them get through the rest of the year, not just because it's of their efforts, but because of what they do for the community. And Jim certainly brings the Donahue Institute study back every year, and that's an important understanding of what this parade means to not just Holyoke, but to the Pioneer Valley itself.
Anyone further? Yes, I know a lot of people haven't been to a parade committee meeting. It's always been fun in the sense of you walk in, you see hundreds of people gathered at tables, and you'll hear Chicopee, progress, Holyoke, progress. And all you hear is progress, and you're wondering how they get this thing off. But it's amazing every year what they do for the city and run a phenomenal parade. And you could hear it in some of the voices tonight, how they got choked up. This is one of Holyoke's biggest events. It's one of Holyoke's finest hour, and it's a tough time for everyone. And to all the volunteers, to award winners, to the families, friends, to the kids, to the citizens of Holyoke, and those who come back from far away, we truly are sorry. It's going to be better next year, but there's still events going on. Support those events, support those businesses, because they're going to need it in this tough time. Not to drag this meeting down any further, but I would like for a moment of silence for those who may have not known, or I know most know. The first one is the mayor lost his brother. Very sad time for the mayor's family, but also former city councilor Dan Bresnahan lost his brother. Very tough week for both families, and I've always said, well, as an elected official, you're always family to us. So I'd like a moment of silence for both of them. Thank you. Lastly, I'd like to read a card. The family of Matthew Allen acknowledges with grateful appreciation, dear City Council members, thank you very much for your kind expressions of sympathy and beautiful flowers. Your kindness was much appreciated during this most difficult time. The Allen family and from Ryan. Very sorry, kiddo. With that, we'll move on to committees. Ordinance, there are none. There are no ordinance.
I would like to make an announcement. So while we didn't report anything out, we had a very extensive joint public hearing with the planning board. It's been more than 4 years since we were able to meet jointly, so it's a real service to our residents and prospective business owners when we can meet jointly to reduce the number of meetings that they have to attend and present the same information to. We get to reduce that by half. So that was a nice thing to begin again. Because of the change in schedule to the city council meetings this month, sandwiched between two super elections, we are meeting on the 11th. So we'll be meeting tomorrow night. Thank you to those members who said they could help to create a quorum and meet on Wednesday the 11th. It's not a typical day that we meet, but we'll be taking up the finance director position that was filed by Councilor McGivern at the mayor's request, and that's going to be a joint committee meeting with the finance committee, because we have the Department of Local Services coming in to talk with us about the report that they created and the recommendations they have to help bolster the city's best practices and fiscal management. So following the meeting tomorrow night, we will then meet next on Tuesday the 17th, and that'll be the only meeting that we have for this month in terms of a regularly scheduled ordinance committee meeting. Okay.
All right, so with that, we're on to finance. 21A, Committee on Finance, was for an order That the City Council here accept the provisions of the SMRP grant. Recommend that be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee did meet on the 4th, and we did have for this particular grant our city engineer in. It's a $1,500 grant. There are no matches. It's kind of an annual grant that comes in, and it's used for a number of different things, and the Finance Committee supports the acceptance of the grant and allow the said B powers to spend it.
No further discussion. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 21A.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve 21A. 21B, Committee on Finance, Master Law 44, Section 53A. City Council hereby accept the provisions of the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. Motion that be adopted. So motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is actually a $25,000 match that we had talked about earlier when we accepted the larger grant. And with the $25,000 letter from the Conservative matching funds was in the letter. And we attempted to pass and to satisfy the powers to be to pass it that evening, and we all questioned it. Come to find out, we have to take a separate vote on the $25,000. So the $25,000 is for a significant grant, the vulnerability, I can't talk this evening, preparedness program grant that we have already accepted, and this would satisfy the city's match by accepting and approving the $25,000 this evening. The Finance Committee voted 4-0 to do so.
Any discussion? So motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 21B.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve 21B. 21C.
Mr. President, if I could suspend the rules to take 21C, 21D, 21E, and 21H together.
Second.
Motion is take up as a package C, D, E, H. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? C is from stabilization, 19,580 towards buyback police. D is 17,046 from stabilization to vacation buyback police. Okay, no, I got it. E is $35,358.01 from stabilization to sick leave buyback, fire department. And then H is $101,696 from stabilization to sick leave buyback from police. Motion would be to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I asked, we can vote on these separate if there's a need, but for a purpose of discussion, I asked, and if we can vote on them as a package. Each of these are contractual obligations. 3 of them are for the police department. They are union contracts for retirements that have taken place over the past, a couple that were known and a couple that were unknown, retirements that have taken place over the past 2 to 3 months. In their contracts, they have rights to buybacks for any of these amounts that were not used during their careers, vacation time, which is kind of standard, sick time, and the time owed back police. The 4th buyback is contractual, but it is our former chief of the fire department, Chief Pond's contract, allowing him to buy back sometimes. The $35,358.01 represents half of the balance that is owed to Chief Pond. In lieu of the tight fiscal year we're having, Chief Pond did agree and felt he was in a good position to do so, to allow the second part to be paid for out of the next fiscal budget. just to give the city a little bit of wiggle room. The committee talked with Chief Feeble at length and with Chief Peskopowski about the buybacks. The auditor was present, signed off on each of these, I'm sorry, and we voted to adopt each of the transfers to allow for the buybacks. Note, the transfers for each of these is coming from the stabilization. It's still within that $750,000 that by DOR's instructions, in order to use it line by line, we put in the stabilization fund. We're keeping a running balance, both Councilor Bartley, myself, and the auditor on those dollars.
Any further discussion on these? There's no further discussion. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. A clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for all four.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the package. 21F.
Here, suspend the rules and take 21F with 21G.
Motion to suspend the
Second.
rules, take up F and G together. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? F is $30,000 from stabilization to motor vehicle police. G is $8,000 from stabilization to motor vehicle police supplies. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did have Chief Feeble in for this discussion also. And what he told us is at the beginning of the budget year, these line items were cut. I had to be corrected by the mayor. Their line items that were projected were needs for the fiscal year. He gave us a rundown of the amount of cruisers that are in the fleet. There are, I believe, 6 to 8 new ones, which is part of that contract with Marquardt Ford. But these are for the aging part of the fleet that needs repairs. And as we're going through the fiscal year, he did note that these line items were starting to deplete very quickly. This will get him through the rest of the fiscal year, barring any tragic problems with the fleet.
Any discussion? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this item here is the line item 52410, Mr. President. That's something I circled in my finance book, and that's something I think when it comes to budget time, I think we can keep a close track on that, and that might be something where it gives us a little bit of flexibility come the budget, especially in light of the fact that they now have a full-time mechanic who's on duty at HPD that takes care of, but as the chief said that night, the full-time mechanic, who happens to be my neighbor, and he happened to find out about it because his house got broken into, and then he happened to find out about it after that because he came up to me, says, what do we do with these break-ins? And then we talked about potential job openings. So at least there was a sort of a pleasant ending to the end of a sad ordeal for he and his family, because he got a job that took him from Hartford to Holyoke, so that was nice. But what the chief said is he didn't come on board till November, and the backup with all the things still require the motor vehicles to be serviced, and this mechanic, while he's very good, he couldn't quite catch up. But I do want us to, as a council, I mean, I don't want to go in these, we do these battles all the time, but and the police department budget, as you know, Mr. President, is rarely ever touched, because so much of it is contractual. However, I mean, we're cutting half the budget for litigation because we want to see what's going on. Well, I mean, this gives us a chance to sort of, and I know we got an order coming up tonight relative to overtime. Well, that'll be something to talk about in ordinance committee as well, how we can better monitor these budgets. As you can see by the contracts that we're passing in the finance chair, none of us, we don't negotiate, but those contracts are, I mean, they're financially, could we have done better? I don't know. But they're a lot of money, and it's just, and we, as a community, as a city council, we've been pretty gracious with the contracts, as you saw, all the buybacks tonight. Again, contractually obligated. Nothing was missaid tonight. Contractually obligated. The question mark, Mr. President, becomes, what are we doing in negotiations for the taxpayers of Holyoke? Well, we know once these deals are made, we're paying them because we have to. So my point is that when there's a couple things in the budget where we maybe have some flexibility to maybe make some reasonable cuts, then I'm just suggesting that we consider those. Thank you.
Anyone further? Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind everybody on the council also, the one we just approved, 21E, the sick leave buyback for the fire department, was for the chief. The mayor knew the chief was retiring. It was not in the budget. It was not cut by this council. It was excluded from the budget, knowing full well he was retiring.
Oh, Counselor Murphy, sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to hold up, but I agree with Councilor Sullivan in looking at the budget during the hearing, and there was questions whether we had cut it or not, and whether or not the mayor knew retirements were coming, both in the police and the fire department. And, you know, again, we need to get a budget that comes to us that's realistic, and that you need to forecast that so that we're not running short. So when you think you've got people retiring or potentially retiring, that should be part of the fund that we put together. And now we're taking it out of stabilization when, had we done it back in the beginning, maybe we'd be in a better situation.
There's no further discussion. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. If you vote yes, you're voting for 21F and G.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Put your vote, you're approved, those two. 21I, Committee on Finance has referred an order for 2,000 as follows. R&M sewers, 1,500, advertising 500, retirement benefits 2,000. Motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
We had Bob Parent before the Finance Committee representing the DPW, and this is a $2,000 retirement benefit that is owed to the retirement board itself. Quite frankly, Mr. Parent just said it was a inadvertent error at budget time, and they found the money in their budget from repair, maintenance, sewers, the 1,500, and the 500 for advertising. So we recognized and thanked him for his frankness, and we support the transfer.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney, Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
For your vote, you approved it. 21J is from the Committee on Finance, who referred from stabilization, 118,000 to patrol school resource officers. Recommend that be denied. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder, we had reported this out of committee earlier this year, sent it back to committee to honor a request by, mostly by the mayor's department. The first time we met on this, Anthony Solda was present. I call, for lack of new titles, the business manager of the school department, who I think most of us believe is doing a wonderful job. And Mr. Soto told us that it was unnecessary to make this transfer, that the school department budget was and is taking care of the $118,000. Our question wasn't so much paying for the school resource officers, but the fact that we had to use the equivalent of what I call free cash, but the money that we put in stabilization. The second meeting, the auditor, Mr. Bloomberg, and everybody present agreed that we do not have to make this transfer, so the committee recommends that we have to deny it. We can't give it leave to withdraw, so the committee recommends that we deny it at this point. The school resource officers will be paid.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, this is a battle we had to wage twice, Mr. President. but both were ended up being wins for the, I feel, for the taxpayer. We had waged this battle back in December 17th, when the mayor, Mr. Bloomberg, wanted to take the 750 we transferred and add the 118 to it to make it 850, whatever the numbers are, 868. Well, we stopped that one, Mr. President, didn't we? Right at the rostrum. That was unbelievable what was going on with that, but we stopped it. No, actually, third time. Then we defeated it once in finance, brought it to full city council in February. Then it got sent back. I mean, the finance chair's, trying to be a team player, do what he has to do. But finance chair voted no, just like we all did in committee. Well, we sent it back. But that was after a committee meeting, which the business manager said, what are you doing? We paid for this. They've already been paid. Well, why are you even discussing this? It was irrational. But we brought it back to full city council. So now we sent it back to finance, and nobody shows up. So here we are again. So we can finally dispatch this. Again, to what other councilors said, maybe we get some true budgeting. I don't know, but this was on supplemental budgets 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we had this marked. This wasn't like a typo, Mr. President. This was on all the supplemental budgets coming from the mayor's office. So again, I just say, stay vigilant. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I will make one point. It was at the December meeting that this was not removed when we were doing the recount for tax classification.
Right.
And when it came here, I asked that we stop and resend it back to the assessor because I did receive notice that this was still left in there, even though we voted not to.
That's right, Mr. President.
So it was try to put back in anyways, which not sure if that was an error or if that was just blatant. However, it did come back, and as we know, this is not our expense. We said that time and time again, of which we've had several meetings now on it, to only confirm that it's not. So what did this represent? Could have been money that was left for dealing with the budget, but now, I guess the pro, as I said way back when, is if we don't approve everything, you are now funding the stabilization account. So we just funded the stabilization account by $118,000. So with that, motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, which is, we'll just go from there. It's ordered to deny. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. If you vote yes, you're voting yes to deny. Okay? Clerk will call the roll.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Greenie.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you're approved to deny. 21K, Committee on Finance was hereby appropriated from stabilization, $50,000 to Special Revenue Fund. Recommended that be denied. Motion to be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the vote was split
3-1.
3-1.
3-1, just for the record.
Okay. Under discussion. Four members have signed the.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I just wanted to, maybe I should just be making that part of the report. And the committee did meet, and we actually had a lengthy discussion on this item, and I want to do it justice and make sure, and I hope the other committee members can help me add some details so that we get all the facts out to everybody here. The $50,000 is the stabilization fund part of $750,000, and that, to some of us, is in question here because of where it's going. The special revenue fund is something that did not exist, or I don't think exists, until there was a request by the police department for this $50,000. The mayor signed off on the request. The auditor identified the money in stabilization as available only as part of the $750,000, and the auditor created the special revenue fund. What the police department is asking for, this involves the off-duty account of private road jobs that both the police officers and superior officers included, and the reserves and auxiliary police perform and we've talked about this at great length over the past handful of years. are paid for through private contractors who need roadwork officers to direct traffic. More recently, we see a lot more use of the auxiliary police officers and reserve officers to do this. It's money that is above and beyond their salaries for which they perform the duties for the city itself. It's monies that over the years have been managed by police department personnel, which I think we all agree is not a bad thing. And certainly the fairness of who gets these road jobs should be managed within the police department itself. The request here is a little strange. Part of it began when the Department of Revenue said that they could not use $50,000 out of the special revolving fund account that was allowed to be established by this body, by the mayor and by the city, to bring monies into revenue from private contractors for paying of this, and to turn around and pay the individuals the monies that they had coming to them. This particular $50,000, according to the chief, we also had Sergeant Hart here, who texted me to say he was coming down. He was a little bit late. Is for a piece of, I believe it's software that would allow the police department to better manage these funds. We question why the taxpayers would be paying for this particular software, or why couldn't it be used out of the additional administrative 10% fee that is now being tagged on to the road job vendors themselves. And the feedback we got, unfortunately, I didn't think we needed the auditor at the meeting, and she was not present only because I said I didn't see anything that we needed her for. Unfortunately, some of that, answers were with Tanya herself. But the committee did vote 3-1 to deny this at this time. Not that we're against the software, I believe the committee voted because we're against using the taxpayer dollars at this point to purchase the software. It's not a one-time purchase either. I believe it's an annual type fee that would be coming back each year.
Any further discussion? So, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I'll just point out, before you make your vote, obviously I respect your vote, but the balance right now, Mr. President, according to my calculations, and I've been proven correct, in fact, I had to correct the auditor on her calculation, is 240, 246. Now, if we turn our pages to agenda item 44, we'll see a fiscal transfer from stabilization for well over $200,000. So if we do vote for this tonight, this will take us below $190,000. There will be insufficient funds for item 44 or anything else that has to come along. That's one argument. The other argument is, I think Sergeant Hart and Chief Febo should be commended. I think they did a great job in presenting their case for this. I'm looking forward to having them present their case at the budget time, Mr. President, for this, because they made it sound to me like it was, in fact, a fiscally responsible system that would essentially pay for itself. We have heard that before. And let's see, I have no reason to doubt their veracity, but I just think financially it's going to be a tough sell right now, Mr. President, and so consequently I'll just stick with my vote in committee and vote no. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the meeting, and I do think their goals are admirable. I mean, they have established a 10% additional fee on all contractors, so they are paying not only the officer's salary, but a fee to the city of 10%. It's my understanding, and again, without any additional information and not reading Tanya's mind, that because that money is coming in specifically as a way to monitor rather than a way to pay, that it needed to come into the general fund as opposed to a revolving fund. And so, and it's my understanding right now, we do have the system, and we are going to owe $50,000. So at some point, we're going to have to figure out where that money is going to come from. But they also indicated, and I believe the number was 108 or 109,000,
125,000.
25, that they had already taken in, or they expected to take in.
Oh, 125 was supposed to be every year. I think they expected 108 or 109, yeah.
Yeah.
They've taken it.
So, it would be paying for itself. And the other aspect to it that, to me, becomes more important is that it would relieve a police officer from doing this on a regular basis. And I know I would like to have more police officers on the street. So, one doesn't make it up, but it certainly gives me one more than I've had before. So, and I appreciate what Councilor Bartley and McGivern have said, and the stabilization fund, we've been hitting it like every 2 weeks in substantial amounts. If we could make some kind of arrangement where we knew we were getting that 50,000 back into the stabilization fund from that 112,000, it would certainly be a lot easier to vote for it. But there was nobody at that point that could do it for us. So, there's a lot of pros to it. Obviously, there's some cons to it. And hopefully we can work this out in the near future so that, in fact, we can pay for this and get a police officer back on the street.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just remind my fellow councilors that the reason the 10% was added on as an administrative fee was due to the initiative of this body, because that account had been in such severe deficit, and the taxpayers had been picking it up all these years for work that had nothing to do with the city. So that fee was added out of an attempt to make that a balanced fund rather than anything else. So the idea that then this same account should go to the stabilization fund and back to the taxpayer to pay for it, to me is not reasonable. The other thing that I think is concerning is that the software would cost $50,000 to generate $100,000 of business. That's obscene. That is obscenely expensive, because basically it's a tracking billing system. And I hope it's for a lot more than just that, and would be supported throughout the whole department. And I think with the size of the police department budget, they should be able to figure it out within their budget. Thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilor Murphy and perhaps the Finance Committee Chair, I'd just like to get a little bit more clarification about how we get an additional officer on the street by supporting this fund. I don't understand the mechanics of how one offsets the other.
Councilor Murphy.
So at the meeting, the chief indicated, and Sergeant Hart as well, that there was one officer that was somewhat dedicated to monitoring all of the independent contracts and making sure that all that gets done. That's what the system was intended to allow that officer not to be doing, that the system would in fact give him a computerized record. To me, that was an argument that made a lot of sense. I don't want a police officer trying to monitor traffic patrols for an independent contractor. So that's what they indicated at that point. And, again, they indicated that if in fact this gets paid for, that is what's going to happen.
Councilor Hughes.
Thank you. I know that the Public Safety Committee has been working with the police chief on figuring out ways to do more community policing, and there's a couple different models out there, some that even have civilians helping to civilians working for the department to help with outreach and other non-trained officer sorts of duties. And I think this is another sort of position where I think we could, if it's not the automated monitoring system, this is another place where we could have some non-police officer trained individual working for the department, so that they're not taking a police officer A off the street and then B a police officer salary if they're not actually on the street working the beat or some other specialized function. Billing, I can't see any reason for a highly trained officer to be completely dedicated to billing. So I hope that we continue to have these conversations in public safety to figure out ways to bolster the police department's ability to promote public safety in the community in a variety of ways. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern?
I think all the facts are out now, so I'd just like to add my concerns and reasons for voting the way I will be. But just for your information, because I think it's important to understand, I think Chief Febo is doing a fine job with the budget for a young department head, a young chief of police. When the purchase was made, at that time, they thought they could use the revolving fund to spend the $50,000. It was later they found out from the auditor, who actually was consulted with the Department of Revenue, who changed the warrant and said you cannot do it that way, and that's what led to this request for a transfer. I know Sergeant Hart, and I got myself in trouble because I sometimes speak without thinking and use the wrong words, did tell us that this might free up a police officer, but the police officer they're talking about, the duty officer, is the title, and that duty officer, you know, I'm not going to tell the police department how to run their business, also is the person who manages all the overtime and when necessary. If someone's on vacation, someone's out sick, someone needs to fill in at the last minute, someone needs to fill in because of a planned vacation or something like that, and they need to do it through overtime. That's part of what a duty officer does, and it's important. And the way they do it, I think, is important also, and that's their business. My question again goes back to using the taxpayers' dollars, using these very limited $750,000 we have to get through the end of the year. And I certainly think with the money that we pay Wally, that there's got to be a way to manage this revolving account without having to spend $50,000 a year. I could be proven wrong, but at this time, I just don't feel it's a good expenditure.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I just want to, I think the counselor says, I just want to clarify a couple of things. One is the duty officer spends only part of his or her time on the road detail stuff. But I would just ask my colleagues to consider this. These road details are private, non-City of Holyoke business. Yet, yes, they are in uniform with police-issued uniforms, police-issued guns, but this is for their own private, personal benefit and that of the vendor. So consider this. The duty officer, paid for the taxes of the City of Holyoke, is spending his or her time, part-time, not full-time, monitoring and managing the detailed road jobs that are private. So a public entity, part of the time, managing the private duty. That's one point. Second point, Mr. President, is that these, the uniform officers, patrolmen, supervisors, they do not pay to utilize the service. However, we just honored Ronnie Dietrich and the auxiliary. Auxiliary is part of the same system. They do pay out of their own pocket to be part of this software program. So they have to pay out of their own pocket. Just bring it up. Thank you.
Counselor Graney?
I'd like to move the question.
Last one is Counselor Bacon.
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion,
I wonder if we could lay this on the table and have a conversation with Wally.
I'd like to move the question.
Second.
Motion was to table it. There's no second. So back to the first, which is motion is to,
No, I was seconding
I think it's move the question.
Move the question.
That's not debatable.
but no, we're going on to,
That's actually not debatable, you're right.
yeah.
Mr. Graney's moved the question, got seconded.
No,
It's
no,
not
no,
debatable.
no. She had the floor. She made a motion to table. It was not seconded. He then said motion to move the question, which she did second it. When he said it first time, she still had a chance to speak. She let that go. That's how it went in order. So now we're back to the original order, which is motion is to pass the first reading, which is to deny. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the
Motion
second
will be
reading.
to pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to deny.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
No.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez.
I'm a little bit unclear.
So if you vote yes, you're voting not to take from stabilization, the 50,000.
No.
Leahy,
No.
LeBron Martinez,
No.
Lisi.
Yes.
8 yeas, 5 nays.
So you need for denial.
No, that was eviscerated. They need-
Majority.
yeah, they need a supermajority to take it out.
So you only need
Yeah,
8, so you're good.
that was vaporized.
So with that, you did not, so with that, you denied the 50,000.
Very true.
Okay. Now we're off to public safety. A, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that the city engineer investigate the traffic pattern around Northampton and South Street to determine if any changes are needed to be made. Residents have been complaining about the traffic building up on the left turn onto South Street. Motion that's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, we met with the DPW superintendent, and we primarily talked about the left turn onto South Street, but he indicated that they are working on a few things. First of all, that they are doing a road safety audit at the intersection, but including Westfield Road, South Street, Hitchcock Street. And they expect by the beginning of June that they'll have an analysis of all the accident traffic reports and volume, and also a count of the turn movements on turning left onto South Street. Their hope is with all that information, they can develop a plan to reduce the congestion and improve the safety in the area. And again, the report's expected by June 1st. So we've asked for that to be submitted to us in June.
Any further discussion? This motion that has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22B, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that DPW address the stairs and walkways around City Hall, parking deck, annex, walkways near the courthouse during store times. The DPW appear before the Public Safety Committee. Motion that's been complied with. Our discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, we had, again, Mr. McManus was there. We also had the, Attorney Ianello, who came in and offered some thoughts and some comments in terms of things that we need to do. There were definite concerns in the parking deck area and the stairway of the parking decks. Attorney Ianello expressed the need for the city to pre-treat the surface of the parking decks, which appears that it has not been done on certain instances, and it certainly wasn't done on a couple of instances where we had people falling. So there are concerns, not only that we do that in terms of the parking deck, but the stairway and also the handrails, which, as I understand, she actually tried to grab the handrail and there was just ice on that, and obviously she couldn't get a grip to stop that. Both prior to the storm and then following up on after the first removal, that again, to prevent ice buildup, that they need to do that. There was doubt that there had been any pre-treatment done on most of the winter storms. I think we've got it through to the DPW that in anticipation of winter storms, it always has to be done, not speculating that we need to do it in anticipation. If we don't get the storm, we're still ahead. If we do get the storm, we're prepared. There's also concern, and I know President McGee had significant concern about holding the contractor for clearing the parking decks more accountable for what has been poor performance. And then there's also, and this is, I think, something that, again, the DPW superintendent heard very loud and clear from us. There were concerns about constituents calling the DPW and getting poor responses in terms of their issues, and in some cases being told that we'll follow up with a call and never getting a return call. So Mr. McManus has reviewed all of those concerns. He has indicated he is going to make sure he works with DPW personnel in the office to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen, and he's also going to work to develop a pre-treatment plan so that we are in fact not going to be in this situation again.
Any for Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, a question through the president to the chair here of the committee. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make that meeting, but was the parking deck when we refer to parking decks around City Hall, and I understand all the other ones, was this one right out here immediately in front where we all parked tonight? Was that included?
It was included in our discussions, but our primary concern were the Topia parking deck and the Prue parking deck, and also the area around the courthouse, and that was one thing that was emphasized. Even when City Hall is closed, the courthouse is open, and that needs to be given priority, because people are gonna be going off the deck and into the storm. But we did try to do the overall picture and trying to make sure that something gets done to create a safe environment, both for people getting out of their cars, people going downstairs, people walking through the parking decks.
Right, and I understand that's the other one surrounding, but this particular one right out here, I've got some, and maybe we should just file a separate order in regards to just that one. As we know, that one is the roof of the former police station, which has a lot of problems with mold and other problems going on inside of it as well. That's, we know from a lot of other things going around town, it creates structural problems itself with the building under there, not just the problem with the mold and what's growing and going on inside that building, but I think it needs a thorough inspection. So if that hasn't been looked at from the interior by an engineer, I think that's something far greater than a lot of the other problems that were addressed and were looked at in this order. So,
Councilor Murphy.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree that the entire situation on the parking deck out here is in deplorable condition and needs to be addressed. And at some point, I think we need to consider whether or not we just remove the former police station and maybe we create a little mini parking deck here. I don't know, but I agree that something, but the order that we had was specific to pretty much the snow removal and the lack thereof and the lack of preparation. So that's what we concentrated on. I don't disagree that this parking deck or this parking area needs to be improved.
no, thank you for that clarification. I will file a separate order regarding that.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I didn't, thank you, Mr. President. I didn't think about that before time, but I'm gonna have a brief comment, but I appreciate the President's passion at night of that meeting. That's our friend, Attorney Iannello, Holyoke resident, by the way, very proud Holyoke resident. And furthermore, she's one of at least 3 other practicing attorneys in district court that have had significant falls. And again, how many times do we have to say it? I'm not sure why this is a shock to the Department of Public Works, but it snows in New England, and we had a fiasco in December. It was embarrassing, and then we've had other fiascos in January and February where we have public walkways untreated, unshoveled, unplowed for days, and then we get bailed out because the sun starts beaming and it melts. So now, at least one of those persons that's fallen has certainly filed suit against the city of Holyoke. So maybe we'll get that for an update and what that plaintiff, the status of that plaintiff's case is, Mr. President. But I'm glad, I was really happy to see the President really step up and really, you gotta come at my car a little bit hard. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's part of the job. And then maybe we can address part of this at budget time as well, Mr. President, to say what remedies do we have in your budget that are going to take care of these situations, and what kind of planning have you done for? We had the October storm in 2011, so we know we get big storms, and they're still going to keep coming. So we've got to plan ahead. The last thing, Mr. President, I wasn't even thinking about this tonight, but that parking deck, that police station, maybe that's something that perhaps if you have a tour this summer, we've been known to do that. Perhaps that would be a building we could go into. Perhaps there might be other local. Okay, well, I'm not saying tour it, go in there, but I'm saying, well, we should at least know what's going on in there. I mean, I'll go in there with Mike and I mean, maybe it should be demoed and take that Harvard-looking structure away from this beautiful city hall that we're honored to sit in. I mean, and remove that thing and just, I don't know, have grass there. I mean, it's something to think about. I mean, the city hall employees and the rest of us, maybe we could cross Dwight Street Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
I just want to, when was the last time anybody's been in that building? Does anyone know? Because that's been closed for a long time. And here's something that I do know, that when a space is sealed or closed and there's no air, and it gets from hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold. Now we have this bacteria growing in there. We do not know what's in there. It's probably even lethal. We're going to have a specialist, an environmentalist, or someone go in and inspect that in a complete suit to make sure, because let me tell you something, every time I come here, every city council, or when I have to do business in City Hall, and I'm driving on that parking lot, I feel like it's going to cave in. I really do. It's so dangerous, and I don't recommend anyone going near or in that building. That's just my 2 cents.
No, I believe you and Councilor Sullivan are right on it. I forget who I was speaking with. It might have been Councilor McGivern. We were joking one day that at one point way back when, couldn't remember the date, the parking lot was shut down. You couldn't park there. It was roped off. You couldn't get up there. And it was told to be unparkable. And then out of the blue, people started parking there again. And it's been like that for many moons. And you are right, Councilor Anderson Burgos. What is going on in there? Now, you said it's lethal. And you want someone to go in there with special gear. Councilor Bartley said he'd go in there by himself. I mean, you know.
Not afraid.
But I think a separate order to have them once again check it, and if it is, we should be parking on it, that would be something we need to know ASAP. Hold on, Councilor McGivern.
There's two issues with the building. One is there's an underground river, underground stream, which goes under City Hall and hits the building and causes a water table in the basement of the building. It's the same thing in the sub-basement of City Hall, but it's controlled. The second is, this was the second police department of the city of Holyoke. Mayor Prue term, and Mayor Prue and the contractor, Mayor Prue and the architectural design, wanted a parking deck on top to be able for people to walk in and out of City Hall. The architect wanted a parking underneath the building itself and a way to get into the elevator or into the staircases underneath. Mayor Prue won out because he signs the check to pay for it. Unfortunately, the parking deck itself was a pre-slab that was designed to go over the joints of the girders of the building itself. If you look out there, you look where the biggest problems are, it's where two parts of the prefab parking deck meet. It's like an X, and that's where the biggest holes come, and that's where the water got in. When the city found that out, the contractor was immediately called in, told that they had to fix it. In a period of time, an adjustment was made by the contractor. And I will never forget this, Mr. President, because it was the middle of February. It was -7 out below, and we were told that everything was fixed and that the mayor signed off and said, okay, let's open up the new police station and there's no problems. And there were no problems until March, April came and the thaw came, and all of a sudden it was leaking everywhere in the building. But it was signed off, and we owned it. It leaked for a few years, and eventually it was shut down, and the new police station was built. Unfortunately, the parking serves a purpose. The building is solid. To answer Councilor Anderson Burgos' question, I don't think anyone goes in the actual building anymore. There is a carport which was used for storage, and a vehicle was stored there for the parking garages themselves for some times. I haven't seen anybody go in and out of that in a period of time recently. I just wanted to correct one thing. The state does removal of snow around the courthouse, but what happens is the courthouse is always open for most of the day, even during the snowstorm. The get back and forth from the parking decks is the key, and that's the part that the city is responsible for. And this year, as Councilor Murphy pointed out, that responsibility has not been met. That parking deck on Suffolk Street is not just attorneys that work in the building, but it also is also the convenient parking for the jury pool, which is twice a month. And I think we have to put our best foot forward, regardless of the weather, for people who are coming in to do business within the city.
All right, so, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, and I think I'm correct, but I believe that removing, removing the building, demolishing the building and replacing the parking deck, I thought was part of the capital plan that we got, the 5-year capital plan that they had put out there. Now, we haven't seen anything going on with it, but I'm pretty sure, but I would co-sign an order with you if you would let me.
We've seen it a couple times. One with the parking decks, take up as package, all three of them. Another one was with the annex building, so we've seen a couple variations. Councilor Sullivan.
I'm sorry I got us so far off course. I will file a separate order. So
I'll
on the motion in front of us.
Yeah,
please.
on the motion. So 22B is that it's
Move the
been
question.
complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22C, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that DPW Superintendent report to the City Council regarding cleaning sidewalks in the storms, Crozier Field, Whiting Farm, so on and so forth. Recommend that be adopted, complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, again, we met with Mr. McManus. We reviewed the concerns. There weren't a lot of real clear answers in terms of why sidewalks didn't get cleared. There was a couple of comments in terms of the Whiting Farms Road sidewalk from Northampton to Sullivan Road is the city's responsibility, but from Sullivan Road to Gordon, it's an individual property owner. He wanted me to emphasize that. But the rest of it needs to be done, and the city needs to do it. He also talked about working with Roca a little bit more to try to have them take care more of some of the sidewalks. But the other concerns are the need of having a complete city plan. And we have 23 different routes for snow removal. And obviously they do the main roads first, but until the main roads are totally satisfied, it doesn't appear that they're really having a plan to get to the others. And we talked about having more of a time sequence that within 6 hours of a storm, we're going to start doing some of the side routes and start to do some of the sidewalks and things along that line. So he did indicate that he's been working on trying to get a better responsibility in terms of who does what and a plan for when that should be done during a storm. And again, the Parks Department, which is also part of the DPW, is involved in cleaning the walkways near the parks. Again, he didn't have an answer as to why that was not being done, and he did indicate that that was a failure of his department at that point.
Councilor Graney.
Yeah, just a question, if I can, through the chair to Councilor Murphy. Did he mention anything about the snow removal budget or how much money is left if he's expended it or anything else? That would be nice to know. It's been a winter that hasn't been too severe. I would think there would be some money left in that budget.
Yeah, we did not get into the financial part of it. I mean, certainly was not an issue in terms of he didn't have the money to do the job, so that's for certain. And I would venture that he's got additional funds available right now. Our emphasis, of course, was to try to make sure that he has a plan to, whenever we have another storm, that we act in a quick and efficient manner, that we get all the roads cleared, the main roads, but that we also do the sidewalks and the side streets.
All right, I'd just like to know if there is any money left, because sometimes that money has a tendency to be transferred somewhere else.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't have that answer.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. If I could, through the chair, maybe I could just let Councilor Graney know that snow removal is one of the few line items, few accounts that the city is allowed to underfund. And in the past, it's always been kind of underfunded because the DPW superintendents would like to use that money elsewhere because they know that at one point we have to fund it. So I'm assuming there's probably very little to nothing in there.
We can call and get it. We can get an update. Anyone further? So this one is that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22D, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that DPW work with the City Council to develop a process for residents to request tree pits on city sidewalks near their home. Motion is that's been complied with. Our discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, again, we met with Mr. McManus, and it's a relatively simple process, and there were some good things that came out of it. To get a city tree planted on a walkway, the person should make an appointment with the DPW to visit the tree nursery. The DPW would then go to their home, conduct a dig safe, and plan the work, including the actual sidewalk removal. Excavate the tree, install the tree with soil mix, stake the tree, and top off the bark mulch. The resident would only have to commit to watering the tree, and there is no fee that is necessary. The other aspect, and this was something he showed us, and I know President McGee was aware of it, the city is looking at flexi pads, which could protect when we do plant trees, could protect the sidewalks from getting pushed up by the trees, and would put us in a position where we could have more trees and not be having to replace sidewalks because they're being lifted up. And I know I've seen a few things that are coming in tonight, I believe, that are talking about these flexi pads that are also going to be, if we use them, it should allow us to plant more trees, which would be great, and have sidewalks that are level and safe.
Councilor Bartley.
Just a little cheer for the city council, because it was our initiative to start the tree nursery in the city of Holyoke. That's what we started here 5 years ago. Soto, myself, and a few other councilors started that. So, and now it's on Berkshire Ave, and I want to give credit to Mr. Smith, and now he's I think he's in Hamp now. No, he's not. He's with the Commonwealth, but our former conservation coordinator. He worked hard on that, and so I don't want to forget him for his help. But that's something of which we can all be pretty proud.
There's no further discussion. Motion that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22E, Committee on Public Safety was referred. In order that the Public Safety Committee meet with the city engineer, superintendent, DPW, and the representatives of Hazen Paper and Sunoco Products to resolve the issue of the unsafe road. Recommend that's been complied with. Our discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Okay, that's, we've been talking to the state about taking over the road, and those are two major employers. We had Sunoco, which obviously we're going to have another issue with Sunoco tonight from the DGR, I think, where they're helping us get an easement to do the sewer lines. We were told that if, in fact, the city did decide to do that, we could, in fact, build a roadway to do the entire street, South Water Street, from Main Street to the Hazen property, which is really the worst part of the road and substantially better. It would be $88,000. Where that money would come from. I am going to try to reach out to see if, I know they have serious concerns about the roadway, and anyone that goes on that roadway, you would have serious concerns as well. I know the fire chief was here, and he indicated they have serious concerns about going on that roadway. So hopefully at some point, we can use some of their taxpayer money to help make getting in and out to their properties, and we heard about all the trucks from Sunoco at the meeting yesterday, that we can be in a position to offer at least some assistance to start improving the road, if not totally replacing it. I also asked them to look at a sidewalk, which would be another $65,000. And again, my first concern would be the road repair, road replacement. If we ever got to that point with the sidewalk, obviously it would make it safer for the people walking. But right now, people drive in there, you just basically, and they don't, amazingly, cars still don't tend to slow down, but they're avoiding the potholes and other things as they go, when there are people on bikes there that have been concerned as well. So, but I will reach out to Hazen and Sunoco and see if they might be willing to help us at all. And then if they are, try to bring that back.
Okay. No one further. Motion that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22F. Committee on Public Safety was referred in order at the Public Safety Committee with the Mayor, Law Department, Building Commissioner, Health Director, Planning Director, and the Emergency Management Director review what happened at 145 Essex Street. The goal is to deal with how that was taken care of. Motion has that been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah. First, before I get into it, I just want to thank our city solicitor for taking these issues to court and making sure that as quickly as possible that those tenants had at least a place to go. But I do think, and we met with the mayor's chief of staff, the director of the Board of Health, and the fire chief, and we talked about trying to develop a plan that is going to be our standard emergency program if we can develop one. And while different types of emergencies, provide different kinds of services. One of the things that did come out and probably will be part of a plan would be to make the War Memorial Building kind of a place of triage where we will go for the initial intake, try to help people get to where they need to go, to give them the assistance to finding places to stay, to help them with food or things along that line, which we ended up doing, but we ended up doing on that Wednesday night when, after the tenants were out for about 6 or 7 hours trying to get into the building. And I also want to thank thank the police department, the health director, for helping to get them into the building that day, because it was cold. They were just trying to figure out what they were going to do. I will also say it is important. I mean, I actually came and got some paperwork that I was told to give them, but if we give people references, we got to make sure that the references are someone that's going to answer. They were phone call after phone call that was just going without anyone answering, and all it was doing was frustrating those people more. So all these kind of things, I do think we have this, and I think if it's the War Memorial, that would make sense. We get people into the War Memorial, we try to give them that shelter while we try to resolve the issues. And I know, based on the comments, when a landlord's building goes, it's not the city's responsibility. However, from an empathetic standpoint, those are our citizens, those are our people, and if it was us, we would want someone to provide assistance, and obviously the city is here to take care of our citizens as best we can, and not trying to spend a ton of taxpayer money, but making sure that people are not left out on the street. So again, I want to thank all the department heads, and I definitely want to thank the city solicitor, and I want to thank the police for being there that day to kind of calm things down. But we need to get a standard plan, and I think they're expecting, again, they've been having meetings. They're expecting potentially a final standardized emergency plan for as many different circumstances as possible by July 1st.
Councilor Greeny.
Just quickly, what's the status of those folks now, Councilor Murphy? Are they all doing well?
They were allowed back in, I believe, 10 days ago.
They're still doing some repairs, but now it's safe to be in there.
So they're all back, settled back in. That's good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone further? So motion, it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There was no public service. There was DGNR. 24A, Committee on DGNR was referred in order for fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant allocation. Have considered it same and recommended that the recommendations of the DGNR Committee be adopted.
Motions to receive and adopt the committee report, as well as to pass the CDBG and home resolution, Mr. President.
Motion to receive, adopt, and pass. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
We had a pretty lengthy meeting last night. Part of it was this, part of it was a few other orders they're still tabling committee. The spreadsheet is right before you. So we had Alicia, Ms. Martins, and Zaida. They were all great, well prepared, and they helped us, navigate the issue. I also had the opportunity to serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee, though I was only there for a cup of coffee, frankly, because we had a Finance Committee meeting that same night. But it was a real eye-opener, Mr. President, and should I be fortunate enough to chair this committee next year, I really want to serve as the on the CAC committee. It's a really great group, and they're very dedicated volunteers. So I look forward to being on that committee, and I'll work with the finance chair to make sure that we don't have a conflict, so I can spend the whole meeting with them, because it was actually a very lively discussion at the time I was there. So we last night in DGR, it's right before you. You can look at this. The non-public service says what it says. I think we did a pretty good job. It's kind of traditional that we support funds for demo, which is what just CAC did. We certainly were right on line with the mayor and the CAC for the code enforcement. You can see we increased what the neighborhood improvement program was asking for, and there's still a massive waiting list for this. It's an incredibly vital program to the integrity of structures in the city of Holyoke. Waiting list of some 88 at this point, Mr. President. The boiler replacement at the Boys and Girls Club, that was a lively discussion, and CAC, we said 100, and last night we debated, and it came out to 125, and as many of us know that toured that facility, that's going to allow if we can get it through, it's going to allow the Boys and Girls Club to leverage extra dollars, because the full budget's 175, but this will allow them to leverage the funds that they need to replace that boiler. And I think, Mr. President, you have an order on for tonight as well.
My order's taken care of now, Counselor.
Relative to that. So, and then you look through here as well, and you know, I'm just gonna, I pointed out before, I don't want to be a dead horse, and I'm sorry for doing it, but Holyoke Housing Authority, you know, the 105,000, I mean, we've already said it once. I mean, we all read the minutes. We know they have $5.8 million in reserve. We also read the minutes from the last meeting, and we know they just transferred $550,000 from the reserve to MMDT, Mass Municipal Depository Trust, because they have that kind of flexibility. So what, in fact, they're doing, by doing that, instead of using $105,000 for their own basketball courts, they took 10% of the reserves and put it in a higher investment vehicle. Now think about that. They're coming to us for CDBG funds. Hey, give us, and meanwhile they're taking their own money out of reserves, because they can do it, and they're putting it in an investment vehicle. So it'll do what? It won't create basketball courts. It'll just make money. I just asked you to consider it. That's all. That's all. The Heart of Holyoke, we've had that debate, you know, and we'll get to the punchline in a minute on that one, but, you know, that's a debate. The DPW, I want to thank, you know, certainly Councilor, but every councilor there, like Councilor Bonmartinez and everybody. Councilor Murphy was there the whole night. So Councilor McGinn was there too for the majority of it as well. So we had some good debates on all this. So the numbers right in front of you. On the public services, you know, that's, Mr. President, that's a tough one. I mean, but I'm really pretty pleased with how we laid this out. We got a, you know, we stretched those dollars, I think, pretty fairly. And can we quibble with things? Did we quibble last night? Did we have unanimity last night? Negative. We had some debates, but they were good debates. And I lost more than my share, and I think every one of us was on the winning side and losing side of several votes. Hey, that's showbiz, as they say. But you know, ultimately, I think we did pretty well on behalf of everyone, a deserving organization. And then the last piece, of course, Mr. President, is the admin stuff, and there's really not much we can do on that. That's set by statute. The extra piece there, that's 6,000 and change. That's extra planning funds that have to be directed somewhere. So the admin is at 240, and as Alicia's pointed out every year she's been in, is that City Holyoke funds do not pay for CDBG staff. That's totally supported by the federal government. Yeah, I think there's certainly some debatable things on here, and you know, I'm certainly willing to answer any questions or comments or concerns. And then the punchline, Mr. President, is yeah, I'm glad we only take you know, a couple hours in CAC, and now we've kind of trimmed the DGR stuff down to, you know, maybe an hour and a half. I mean, when I first came on the board, you know, we had 3.5 hour, 4 hour battles on this going. I mean, it was, and then all to, you know, I was in my ignorance, but all to find out that, yeah, Mayor can do whatever she or he wants. So once I learned that lesson, I sort of curtailed my you know, the drama in committee. But I think with that being said, hopefully the mayor and the mayor's office will look this over reasonably and say, you know, the city council did an okay job, and you know, maybe the city council didn't support everything that I supported, but got to 90% of what the mayor supported. That's not bad. Thank you.
Hey, Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, to echo Councilor Bartley, because I sat on the CAC for 4 years representing the council. It's a great group of people. They do a tremendous job of vetting out the issues, and the same with our Office of Community Development. I think I'd like to point out to the group, and I'd like to encourage everybody to just adopt the recommendations of the Development and Government Relations Committee as meeting across the board. Pretty much as you go down the whole thing, they reflect almost line item for line item the conclusions reached, the recommendations reached by the CAC. CAC, who most of the members or almost all the members are appointed by the mayor. Mayoral appointees, yet the mayor, in this first group, non-public services, despite what CAC says, despite what Development and Government Relations says, and despite what the Office of Community Development, and despite what we see every day going on in the city with crumbling buildings and crumbling infrastructure, $442,000 of the $789,000 that was available was gutted out of demolition. Gutted out of retaining wall and drainage system for a wall that's ready to collapse on Pine Street in front of Wisteria Hearst, one of the showcases of the city. Needed work for repairs on sewer and storm drains around the city. Yet CAC and the Development and Government Relations Committee unanimously zeroed out items where he approved $442,000, including art on Main Street, Topefort basketball courts, which Councilor Bartley just told us, they are sitting on over $5 million in reserved money. But this is the appropriation, $217,000. Worthwhile project, but it's Donahue School. It should be in the school budget. It's a school playground, all right? All of those gutted, right, and approved despite zero on either side by the Citizens Committee and by Development Government and by OCD. $412,000 worth of infrastructure gutted, and $442,000 put into projects that weren't even on the radar for CAC or Development and Government Relations or OCD.
Councilor Graney?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Councilor Bartley said and Councilor Sullivan said, we had some vigorous debate on some of the issues, but we pretty much agreed that the funding that we spent were probably the best that we could do as a group, and I think we pretty much agreed on everything in the end. So it was a good meeting. It was a rather lengthy meeting, but it was a good meeting.
Councilor McGivern.
I think we should tip our hat to the DGR committee for the work they've done on this, and certainly recognize the Citizens Advisory Committee for the work that they did. I support the recommendations wholeheartedly after the discussion took place last night. And I believe that our most important vote this evening is to allow the city to accept the $804,038 for the Home and Veterans Partnership Program that we have to share a little bit with Chicopee and Westfield, and to accept the $1.2 million block grant money itself. Councilor Bartley talked about years prior where we used to have longer discussions on this. Decades prior, we used to have to do 2 nights of this where we broke down public service and the non-public service items onto 2 different nights. Years ago, we had $6-7 million of our share of federal monies coming into this city. It is unheard of that we are sending trillions of dollars out of this country to help other countries, and the federal government is giving us $1.2 million after decades of $6-7 million of our monies coming back for worthy projects within the city and within all municipalities within this country. But we can only take what we're given, and I think DGR did a great job of both the recommendations, but recognizing that we need these dollars, and I certainly support that we accept them.
So the motion is to receive, adopt. Alicia Zoller did send in the communication today. I thank you for your diligent work for the DGNR committee in reviewing the 2020 proposals. Last night's meeting attached, please find the block grant recommendations from the committee, the mayor and the other and the DGNR committee, and she attached a resolution that will need a roll call in order to then be signed off and sent. So motion to receive, adopt, and Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I think we can just take a voice vote on the committee, and then we should have I think we need a roll call vote.
You need a roll call, yeah. So, yeah, so we'll do so with regards to the 24A, motion is to receive and adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now, with regards to the resolution, with regards to covering the community block grant program, clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for everything that was done.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman.
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
You vote you approved it? 24B, Committee on DGNR, who was referred in order that the committee host a U.S. Census employee that at an up-and-coming meeting to learn more about the census and learn about the job opportunities for Hoyoke residents. Recommended that's been complied with. Under discussion.
Motion to receive, adopt the committee report.
Second.
Receive and adopt. Under discussion.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have Susan Hagan come before us last night for a really robust discussion. She's from the U.S. Census Bureau, New York Regional Office. She went through, walked through all the steps, how the census is going to start. And it actually started with a soft opening today, but she said the self-response campaign starts March 12th. There's going to be a reminder letter, reminder postcards, another reminder, and then a knock on the door. And the knock on the door is going to be up to 5 times. And that's pretty dedicated. We talked about the constitutional duty of this. I think we all know this. It's mandated by the U.S. Constitution. Recruiting, the jobs are now at $22 an hour. People can go on 2020census.gov for positions. The hours are, she said, they're 40 plus hours, and they're starting April 27th, at least through August. And what was really nice to my ears is that a census worker, I think they call them enumerators, but I don't know for sure, but something like that. The census worker actually works in his or her own neighborhood. I thought you got transferred somewhere, I don't know, to Kentucky, but no, you work right in Elmwood or Oakdale or Highlands or whatever, and so that's pretty nice. There's training, which is mandatory, and that's paid. And I did ask her about the census data work, and she said we're hopeful to be done in August, but the census workers could be right through the 31st of December, and by that point they have to get everything tightened up and placed on the desk of the president. And there you go. And I don't think any person in this room has to be explained how just vital the census is to Holyoke, to Massachusetts, to all of us, is in terms of jobs and dollars and recognition. So one thing we did learn, and again, it amazes me, Mr. President, how we don't get communications on this. This is when everybody in this room, mostly everybody in this room, allowed me to change this committee from redevelopment to what we call DGR now, and I really appreciate it, because I know it's a change, and I know it seemed a little weird at the time, and so again, I want to thank everybody who was here to really support me, because I don't think anybody really bucked me on that one. So it allows us to bring in people to our committee that allows Holyoke to for us to look outwards a little bit, and so people can, we see what's going on around us. And so we had an incredible person here last night, so knowledgeable about the U.S. Census. Any question we asked, bingo, she got it. Well, she added some information about the city of Holyoke, which I wasn't aware. There's a committee, Mr. President, called the Complete Count Committee, made up of Holyokers, including somebody from the planning department. We've had zero communication on that. What a shock. So hopefully, my hope is that I will reach out to the, I don't want to say this because it's inappropriate for us to say names, especially of planning people, and this is not the planning director. So I will reach out to that staff person tomorrow, and I will ask that staff person to send us a communication about the Holyoke's Complete Count Committee, and so to keep us apprised of how we're doing the census. There's also the executive director of One Holyoke CDC who's heavily involved with this. which is news to me anyhow. I think Councilor Murphy was the only one aware of it, if I recall. I think the rest of the committee was kind of taken aback that we had, but it's good information, and I was glad to know it, and I'm glad it came out from the U.S. Census person from New York, as opposed to somebody from Holyoke, Mass. that told us. But nevertheless, we have the information on the table, and I, for one, was very grateful to get the intel. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it was a fine discussion last night, and it reminded me that it's a little early, but I think it's time to start. And I will file an order tomorrow with our city clerk for our next agenda. Is with the completion of the federal census, we're going to have to change our ward lines accordingly. And it's a mathematical formula in terms of proportionate division of the wards. It's also time to think about if they want to make any adjustments to the number of wards, but more important to the size of the wards according to population. Some people think that that's not the city council's responsibility, but in the past, we've taken the bull by the horns. And despite the name of the committee, I think it still should go to the DGR committee, as it used to be part of the redevelopment committee. And I think they will do a fine job of deciphering the numbers that come from the census and being able to redraw, which we do vote on eventually, to redraw the ward lines in a fair and an appropriate manner. So if anybody wishes to join me, just let Brenna know, but I'll file that order tomorrow, so we'll get the ball rolling.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor McGivern. I recall doing that a couple of times during our term. We were in the back room here, and we had the big map out there of the city. And
only once every 10 years now.
Well,
How many times?
I think I did it twice. I don't know, but I think it's something that's important. I'll be happy to sign on for that order too. It's important the count that we have. And last night it was very interesting to hear the worker from the Census Bureau to show how important this is to the city, not just the city, I mean the state and the country. She stated one thing I think Councilor Bartley missed, and he gave a very thorough report, was how many children between 0 and 5 were undercounted just in our community. And that tells us, people that are going to school, the education of our students. I think we were short, I don't know how many, maybe 400 or 1,000 kids that were unaccounted in the last census. So it's important that people to know that it's something that comes every 10 years, but it really is something that's crucial for everybody in the city, to how much funding we get, who we're represented by, how our education is formed, and how we can project in the future years the importance of, how many kids we have going into kindergarten in 2025, and how many people need assistance, in a certain area of the city. So I think it's important for people to realize that. And my big question to her was, how do we get the word out? I mean, it's through the radio, through media, and a lot of it, she said, through us, through the civic leaders, that we have to get the word out to the people, the importance of the account, no matter where you're at in a home or a block, how many people are living there. Sometimes people are afraid to send it out because there's 8 people in an apartment, they're only supposed to have 4 or something. So she said it's important to get this done, and I think it has to be done actually on the president's desk by December 31st, but they try to tie it up and finish it up by either August or September. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities. It's just starting now, but it's an important thing that each citizen has the ability to do it, and that should do. So thank you.
Councilor Murphy, then Councilor Green.
Yeah, and she did indicate that there was a shortage in terms of the youth, and she didn't really know, but she knows the school attendance was in excess of what we had recorded. Now, whether or not those people were here when the census was taking place, that's another matter. But she did indicate that, and she thought it was a national trend too, if I'm not mistaken, that it wasn't just us that were counting kids 0 to 5 less than they really were. It's national. My biggest concern is because we have so many apartment buildings in the lower wards that it's very difficult to get into and knock and get a chance to talk to all the tenants. So I know Mike Moriarty has already working with the group that I knew a little bit about, has worked to try to get as many landlords involved to get access to the building so that we can get a more accurate account. But I'm not quite sure where that is. I know they also meet with landlords almost once a month or every 5 or 6 weeks to try to work with them on other things, and I know he's included that. So hopefully we can, I would almost guarantee that the census in the lower wards has never lived up to its full complement.
Councilor Green.
Yeah, and most importantly too, I think she reiterated that this census is confidential in nature. It's to be used only by the Census Bureau, simply to count numbers for no other reason, just to get the population of the district. And they would reiterate to the people who are training for this situation that is a key factor into being successful with the census, to make sure that the people understand that this is no threat or anything like that. This is purely just to count numbers to get federal reimbursements coming to the city.
Councilor Bo Martinez.
Yeah, and as was mentioned by Ms. Barley, that one of the things is that they're hoping that people from their own community, their own neighborhoods or community apply for these jobs, because that's the goal, so that they can identify. I know that you guys mentioned, I was a numerator about 20, 30 years ago. I did it once. And one of the good things about doing it, if you are from the neighborhood, you know your ways in and out in a building. Like, I knew that I couldn't come through the front door, but I know how to get through the alleyway and get up to the second, third floor. So being from your own neighborhood, it makes it easier. Also, you see a face and you know that you saw that name. You can kind of approach that person and says, I see you on the list. Anything I can do to get you to understand or helping you fill it out. And as mentioned, I think that is very needed for our neighborhoods that are less counted, because different reasons behind it, and how confidential it is that we can get people to really respond to this, because it's important for everything that was mentioned here today, that it does, makes the funding that funnels down to our sidewalks and everything that comes down to it. So I just want to make sure that who's listening, this is an opportunity. You can apply. They are hosting a site at our organization, Mass Hire Holyoke. They're there twice a week, and I know that they've been now working with One Holyoke CDC, so they're recruiting, and they pay well. Thank you.
All right, if there's no further discussion, this one is order that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 24C, Committee on DGNR, who was referred, order that the Honorable City Council, in accordance with Mass General Law and the city ordinances, vote to approve the taking of certain taking and fee, permanent easement, temporary easement, and thus require a right of eminent domain. This would be for the Jackson Street area sewer separation project.
So my motion is to receive and adopt the committee report and to vote to approve an order of taking.
Motion is to receive and adopt. Under discussion, Councilman Bartley.
All right, so this is, wow. I mean, how do I unpack this one? There was a lot going on. Mr. Parent appeared before us last night. I thought was very thorough, very well prepared. I certainly learned some new things. This is, most of us, I think, would maybe question taking of other person's other property, but this is what's called a friendly easement, and that's kind of a term of art in property law, and basically both parties are on board with it. And so this has to do with the Jackson Street sewer separation project. It's going to really impact the South Holyoke neighborhood for many weeks this summer. It's also going to impact Sunoco in a pretty big way, to the point where they're going to have to clear out one of their parking lots and move a big portion of their trailers to the city parking lot, which I just discovered happens to be on Canal Street, near Cabot Street, and we learned about that in discussions for the business going into one Cabot. There are numerous challenges to this. There is, technical and engineering challenges that have taken months, if not several years, to come to this point. And now we're at the point where City Council and, of course, the mayor has to sign off on the friendly easement. The project, as we learned several months ago, for sewer separation is, this isn't going to go on for this summer or next year. This is going to go on, Mr. President, for probably the next 50 years. So this is, well after most of our time on this board. But we as we said before, are just mainly stewards for the city, and we're going to see if we can help move this forward. The total cost is project $8.9 million. This is basically comes from a clean water trust. It's a 2% loan. City of Holyoke ratepayers, not the taxpayers. The ratepayers are going to be paying for this over a period of time. But the good news is Mr. Parent talked about possibly something called principal forgiveness, which is maybe 10% or 15% of the finance cost. So maybe they'll take the sting, some of the sting away from the ratepayers. Can't promise it yet, but he said historically that does happen. Very interesting. There was an interesting discussion about what happens with Sunoco's trailers, because he mentioned a six-figure sum goes in and out of there on a daily basis, not every single day, Monday through Sunday, or Sunday through Saturday, and amazing. So that they're going to have a whole new setup on Canal Street, fenced in, cameras. Cameras are going to feed to Sunoco, monitored by Sunoco employees. I mean, this is like a big operation, and it's pretty amazing what's happening. So how they're going to have to build these pipes underneath the third level canal, underneath the railroad tracks. I mean, it was getting a little wonky. I get it, and maybe the people in the audience are going like shut up. But it was a pretty cool discussion, I thought. And with that, the DGR committee unanimously voted to support the friendly easement and the order of taking. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, again, city engineer does an excellent job, and he is so in-depth. I mean, he went over his plans. He asked me to go down there, and I also think we need to commend Sunoco, because they're making this very easy for the city. I mean, their business is being significantly altered for the 3-4 months of this is going to take. So they do. I mean, I was down there for 15 minutes, and I think I saw a half a dozen trucks going in and out. And you're talking major tractor trailers, and they're going back and forth on that South Water Street, and now they got to go over to Canal Street. So they have been very cooperative with the city from everything I've heard. So I think as a business they need to be commended, and we need to make sure we support them as much as we can.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't physically at the meeting, but I'm always interested in takings and what the discussion is around those. So I did watch from the comfort of my rocking chair, Mr. Chairman. But I was really impressed with the collaboration between a significant business in our community and with our city to address these really critical sewer overflow issues. And this is another big one. So this will be a very good thing done for the river, for the city, and for the aging infrastructure that we have. So I'm very supportive of this, and really thought our engineer, Mr. Parent, did an excellent job in the coordination and presentation of it. A complex matter. Thank you.
Councilor Graney.
It's going to be a pretty big inconvenience for the people in the neighborhood, but overall, it's going to benefit the city tremendously.
If there's no further discussion, motion is to receive, adopt. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for it.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, yeah, we got it. With your vote, you're approved. Now we're on to no charter and rules, no joint school.
Mr. President, if I could just appoint some information
Yep.
before we go on to orders.
Yep.
Councilor Lisi pointed out that the ordinance committee is going to meet with the finance committee tomorrow night. The purpose of the discussion, as Rebecca said, is to allow DOR, DLS to present one argument, one set of facts and findings to the city that would be redundant to both what's in her committee and 3 orders that are in the Finance Committee itself. This is the promised discussion on what happened with the deficiencies that led to the use of what I call free cash, and then luckily to the use of additional values in the single-family home sales this year that allowed us to use the $750,000 we'd agreed upon. The point is, if anybody can make the meeting tomorrow night, it's going to be a very important meeting in terms of the people who are going to come in from both our local services and from Boston. And I think the discussion is one that we all need to pay attention to for future budgets, but also for the future makeup of our financial departments. There's a lot to take into consideration of how the finances should be run. It's a charter issue by no question, but right now we've got a proposal in front of us from the mayor to do so by ordinance, and I think we have to listen to what the DOR has to say, but also hope the DOR listens to what we have to say in terms of checks and balances.
Councilor McGivern, can you just announce the time of the meeting? 'Cause I think
6:30 will be the meeting. We're going to set up here as best we can to accommodate both committees, and I believe there's 5 guests plus 4 to 5 of our department heads that'll be here to be part of the discussion.
Off to orders, motions, orders, resolutions. 27's already been done. 28, that the handicap sign be removed from 3, so that'd be an ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 29, City Council requests the mayor support CDBG for the Boys and Girls Club. I think that's already been done. I'll just say that's been complied with because you appropriated the 125, and we'll see if that sticks. So I'll just say it's complied with.
So moved.
Second.
So moved,
For all
yeah.
as well. And that came from, I was at an event, and some members of the Boys and Girls Club approached me and said, is there any way that we can ask for that boiler to be taken care of? So that's why this order's here. So off to 30, order that, I'll take up 30, 31, and 32 as a package.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 30 is for myself, that the mayor's office provide the contractual agreement between Mass DOT and the City Hall space that they're using.
I'll
30
sign my name onto that, please.
Adding Counselor Bartley. 31 from myself, the mayor's office and the personnel department provide the city council with approval notice to the city council regarding their moving of the office.
Of
We
which
never did
office?
receive. What?
Personnel.
Personnel.
I wasn't sure, okay.
Where'd they move to?
They moved from downstairs to the annex, up by the law department. I'll remind people, there's an ordinance that requires our approval.
I'll sign on to that one too, because it was an inconvenience to get up there.
Adding Counselor Graney.
I'll sign on to that as well, because we have to approve all this stuff. We filed that several years ago, Mr. President.
Yep. Counselor Bartley. 32 is for myself as well. Order that the mayor's office provide a contract between the city and the coffee shop located
Add my name,
downstairs.
please.
I know Counselor Bartley, you had filed that, but we have yet to receive it.
We have a coffee shop?
Well, it's like a little mini store, however you want
Just
to
to
call
me.
it.
Yeah, you know
Mini mart.
No, I didn't get the memo.
Jimmy, it's a coffee shop in
Been down there.
downstairs.
You ever been down there? Open house.
The food's good.
Where,
Dexo, isn't
Lunch.
it?
whereabouts?
from the schools.
It's the old weights and
Weights and
measures.
measures.
Remember those weights and measures room?
You're kidding me.
Food's good.
So what do you think,
Is it
public
open?
service?
Is it open to the public?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Public service, Counselor Leahy?
Sure.
Because we.
Giddy up. Hope
All
they
right,
bring
so all
coffee.
those 3 to public service. All
Under
those in
discussion?
favor? Counselor McGivern.
Just
yeah.
real quick on item 30, not to discuss it, but just maybe we can get an answer for the rent that the DOT paid for 1 Cabot Street when they rented in the city-owned building,
You already know that
office
answer.
space there.
You already know that answer.
Well, I'm just kind of hoping we see the numbers we've been asking for several years now.
We'll take that up too. It's
Point of
amazing.
order, Mr. President?
Yeah, Counselor Green.
What are the hours of the coffee shop?
I think it's from 8 to 2. 10 to 1:30.
Well, we'll just make sure we do our business at the city.
I like those hours.
All right, so all the public service, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 33, DPW remove and replace the rug. If you guys want to
Add
have
my
this in
name.
discussion.
Yeah.
Well,
She wants to pick the color.
well,
I'm not saying to do it now, it's going to be part of the discussion of the budget, but You know, if you look around,
It's gross.
some lovely stains.
It's growing.
Counselor Bartley.
Well,
Just get rid of it.
I would ask the DPW also consider applying to the CPA.
Yep.
So I'd like to have a friendly amendment to
Sure.
ask them, not
Yeah.
just,
Second.
to,
Good amendment.
come up with a plan, but, to come up with a budget for us and ask them to consider applying for CPA funds. And while they're at it, they may consider, you may, if you further amend this, to consider the crack paint
That-
all around here. This is.
Was brought up before, I think.
I'll explain that one. I have spoken with Mike. There's grants that they're applying for because we, in the past, did request that this be cataloged and try to save it as best you can. So that's going to be a different beast to fight. So that's in the works now. They're looking at certain grants to get to that.
Historic.
Just further on.
Counselor?
Yes, so that was something we filed 5 or 6 years ago. I will say on a positive note that Mr. McManus has, in fact, put up the former city government's photos outside in very lovely frames, and I think there's now 2 of them out there. So, I'm not saying it's, a huge rush, but at least there's some forward progress on this, and I'm grateful for it. And I think people, when they come to City Hall, they think it's pretty cool.
So this one is order that the DPW remove and replace the city council chamber rug. Look to CPA funds
Yeah,
as a
add my name
resource.
to it, please.
Adding that as amendment. For the amendment, any questions on that? Councilor Anderson Burgos? you have a question?
Can I make a recommendation? No rugs?
Well, you can do that if they
Oh,
want
look at you.
look at
Just
the-
because
Look at you with interior design.
Well, no, think about
Wow.
it. Like the rugs, it's allergies and stains, and you're gonna have to replace it every other few years or whatever. It's better just to have wood anyway.
Depends on
Seriously.
what the floors
See
look
what's
like.
under
Ask
it.
Mike what's underneath there. He'll tell
Is
you.
it wood? Must be wood.
It's not wood. Okay. Well,
How about a
For
shag
decades.
rug?
so the order should read, order that the
Here's what's happening in 20
DPW
years.
remove and
we vote on
replace
the
the
color?
chamber rug or do wood. Look to CPA funds, and I'll file a separate order because I know they were in the works of doing every office over and putting some rugs in, and some got them, some didn't. So I'll follow up with another order for that.
Or tiles, they can do tiles.
So on the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So that was the motion is to receive, adopt, and send to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This is 34, or that the DPW look into replacing the desks and chairs. I'm not saying to do it right now, but look into trying getting prices on that, what it would look like. So
I
I'd
think
say
it's time, Mr.
public-
President.
Public service.
Getting a little bit low here.
So make a motion to send to public service. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We can get some kind of look at what that would cost. 35, or that the DPW give an update report on the city council pictures. So
Look.
council, we're going right back at it. 2 are up in the hall, I do believe. One's sitting in the corner over there, ready to fall over. So I'd like an update on that, especially ones that they broke here. We never had replaced, and the new one that we have that's still in the box back there hasn't been put up. A point to that one, the frames that we all see here, there's a new frame to the latest one that we have. They could not find it, the old frames, that's what Ryan was telling me. So they have a new gold frame. It is definitely not the same as what we see here, but I'm just giving you guys a heads up. That's the new frame that they had.
Go on a new wall.
So just giving the heads up on that one. So with that, I'd say I'll make a motion to receive, adopt, and send to DPW.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Well, I guess I'll take down my drill and help them out, I guess. 36,
Wait. You want to drill?
no, but I'll find one.
Yeah, it's in the she shed.
Don't come to my house.
36, or that the DPW look into replacing the tree surrounds on High Street with the flexi pad. Please provide the council with a cost estimate for doing the work. Send to public service.
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I know we discussed it before, but that is where we're gonna, I'm hoping to get rid of those metal grates that keep popping up the sidewalk, putting this thing in and using the trees that Counselor Bartley pointed out, the nursery that we don't have to pay for. And then that way we can fix our sidewalks without
Don't want for nothing.
problem. 37, order that the legal department, police chief, board of health, state officials be invited to the public safety committee to implement a plan or procedure to deal with the negligent landlords.
Public safety.
Send it to
Second.
public safety. Mainly, I do believe everyone's gotten a copy of the fire department and the police department with regards to a certain landlord who just will not stop and is bleeding this city of our resources. So if it's taking the properties, I'd be more than happy to proceed down that road. So to
President?
public safety.
Could you add my name to that?
Yep. Counselor Bartley.
I'm sorry, I don't recall getting, may I have that resent to me?
Yeah, I'll send it. The latest one, we got the police one. The latest one was the fire one.
I didn't get either of them.
May I have the police and the fire one, whatever the
police, I
latest
think.
ones are? I don't recall.
I'll send them to Ryan. I thought you were on there, but I'll send to Ryan all of them and get them to you.
Thank you.
I didn't get them either, Ted.
Okay, police and fire, then to all. Okay, so that's the public safety. All those in favor? All opposed?
Yeah, you know, I probably.
38, the mayor's office, city council, consider using $100,000 from the overlay to purchase new voting machines. We can send this to finance or
Finance.
Counselor Bartley?
Just on discussion?
Yeah.
What do we have in the overlay?
I talked to Tony. Tony said there was sufficient funds, but I forgot to write down the total number.
Mr. President?
I can get that tomorrow. Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say on this topic, I just want to thank our city clerk, Brenna, and her staff. They did a fantastic job. I know there were a few hiccups, such as in Ward 7, that one of the voting machines, so I think this is apropos, one of the voting machines wasn't working for a good amount of time before. So, I mean, it's time to upgrade these voting machines, but I think everybody did a great job. Just want to pass that along.
Counselor
Yeah,
Gray?
kudos to the city clerk too for the voting at the senior center. A lot of the seniors have expressed their appreciation for that.
Counselor McGivern?
Mr. President, if I can make a suggestion, would not be a final vote. If
No,
we did adopt this evening, the mayor and the assessors would have to agree, and then the money would have to come into the general fund, come back to us for appropriation.
Correct.
So we would have two bites at the apple, but to expedite things, perhaps we could consider adopting the recommendation tonight, knowing we'll get a final vote down the road if it does go forward.
Make a motion to accept it.
Okay, so motion, Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, if you could put me on that order too, I'd appreciate that.
Just for the heads up, 4 machines, from my understanding, I mean, I'll get corrected, broke down that day. You saw the number of ballots that were there. It's only going to get worse. I've been saying it, and I filed this before, is that these machines, you cannot get parts to replace them. So when it's gone, and now you're hand counting, now people are really getting upset saying, is the election not fair to me? So I'm trying to avoid that. The machines are out there. If you look around at newspapers, every other community is getting new machines. We can't get anything. I don't understand that, and these things are, I think they're older than me, so it's kind of scary. With that said, motion is to
I made a motion to
receive,
second it, yeah.
adopt, send to the mayor and the assessor, and then if they ultimately decide, they'll have to send a
Aye.
true appropriation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Counselor Lacey?
Just a quick question. Would the city council be able to weigh in any way on the type of machine that's purchased? Like, would there be there's only 2 available at the state level, is that what you mean? And they're both with paper, copies? Yeah, okay, thanks.
So it's a 50-50.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so motion is to receive, adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I can make a motion to suspend the rules, to take up items 39, 42, and 44 as a package, and refer to the Committee on Finance.
Second.
39, 40,
2,
42, sorry. 42 and what else?
44.
44. Motion to suspend rules, take up 39, 42, and 44 as a package. All those in favor? All opposed? 39 quickly is 9,300 from coordinator to several areas. The next one is $1,020 from senior clerk police to pay senior clerk. Last one is $210,391 from stabilization to a bunch of areas that would be for the police contract, I do believe. So that's all to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take up items 40, 41, 43 as a package for the purpose of passing their first reading and adopting this evening.
Motion to suspend
Second.
rules, take up 40, 41, and 43 as a package. All those in favor? All opposed? 40 is from the fire department. It would be $4,742.08 from firefighters, lieutenants to injured on duty. 41 is also from fire, which is $2,121.32 to injured on duty. And then the next one is from the police officers. That would be $14,006.66 to injured on duty. With regards to the numbers, for the first one, it's 2. 41, it's 1. And for 43, the police, it is 6. So motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
This is the every meeting vote that we take to just take money out of line items for salaries for officers or firefighters that have a legitimate reason, and it is looked into in each case for being placed on injured on duty, even if it's just a temporary period. This is more for accounting so that we know when the salaries are being paid, but the job performance is negated because of the injury.
No further discussion. Motion is to receive, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 40, 41, and 43.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Graney. Hernandez.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
If you vote, you approve those. 45 from Councilor Murphy, or that the following handicap parking ordinances be repealed and parking signs be removed.
Refer to the ordinance committee.
So to ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 46 from
46 and 47, I'd like to have adopted and sent to the DPW.
Second.
46 and 47 as a package. All those in favor?
If I
Aye.
can just
40,
comment.
hold on,
briefly.
46,
Oh, I'm sorry.
order,
Go ahead.
order that once the new handicap parking ordinance is adopted, DPW paint areas for signage. And then 47, order that for all current handicap parking signs approved, DPW try to paint restricted parking areas so that all vehicles will not leave so little space.
Yeah. So,
Under discussion?
yeah, this consistently becomes a problem. You get a handicap spot, you get it, obviously, we can't designate it for a particular person, but we put a sign up, and then someone parks in front and leaves 8 feet, and then someone comes behind, and the next thing you know, the person that has the sign can't get in there to use it. And I've seen it. I've been in 4 or 5 different instances where we put a sign up, and 2 or 3 weeks later, they're just trapped. They can't get out or they can't get in. And I've been told a couple of times that when the police have a hard time ticketing because there's not a specific spot, and as long as they're guess you could get yourself in front of that sign, you're okay. But I mean, there's no way. Many of these things have to be cleaned up, and we got to put some kind of lineage so that handicap spot is really designated for the person that it's intended for, or for a disabled person that it's intended for. And right now, it's a problem. We're putting up signs that are being unable to be used.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. And I'll second this, and I support it. But first, we need to get the lines on the roads. They are almost invisible on some of the major roadways in our city, like out on County Road 202. They're just really, it's unsafe.
Councilor McGivern.
I agree with Councilor Bacon 100%. You're right, Linda? 100%. There's something
I'm
that's
gonna write that in
happened
my
over,
diary.
over a handful of years where the repainting of lines that should be, I think it used to be a third of lines are repainted every year. And so every 3 years, the lines were, at least all lines were repainted. It's not happening. And it's becoming very dangerous, whether it be the double yellow line in the middle of the road, the passing lane lines, the bike lanes, the parking lanes. I won't take away from Councilor Murphy's recommendation here because I do agree with it, but we got to find out if it's a budgetary problem or what's going on, because this needs to happen every year. And crosswalks, of course, one of the more important ones, you know, for drivers to see and to know where they're driving and what they're driving into.
Counselor Graney.
I'd like to sign on Counselor Murphy's orders if possible.
Absolutely.
Counselor Hernandez.
Yes, I also want to add crosswalks. Thank you, Joe McGivern. Very important in Ward 4. I visited many streets. My constituents have informed me of how unsafe it is to cross on these crosswalks. They're not lined and motorists are not, it's not visible. So that's something that I'm very interested in seeing why it's not getting done and what do we do moving forward so we can increase this and get it done.
Councilor McGee, a point of information.
Yeah, Counselor.
I believe all the speakers, I think they all have valid points. However, that's not the order that's in front of us. I think an order should be filed for all the streets to be paved or have Mr. McManus come in and discuss. But the order that's in front of us is talking about a handicap painting. So maybe we should limit the conversation to that.
We'll have to file those orders, but they're talking about painting, so.
Handicap spots.
Handicap
I agree,
spots
Mr.
that are
President,
there.
and I apologize. I just took a chapter out of Councilor Sullivan's book.
So with 46 and 47, this is to receive and adopt.
Adopt and send to the DPW.
Send to DPW. All those in favor? Oh, Counselor Lisa, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Counselor
just really quickly, as far as I understand, the DBW has begun repainting and striping areas throughout the city. It's on a schedule that they have created. And there is a significant amount of repaving that's happening. So some areas may be put off longer than others because of the anticipated repaving that's happening this spring into the summer.
So here, motion is receive, adopt, send DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 48 from Counselor Bacon, order that the street vendors who have received a special permit be granted a renewal of the special permit for the same location without a hearing when all required approvals are presented with the application.
Ordinance.
Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 49 from Counselor Bacon, order that any transfers from the personnel budget lines to overtime require approval by the city council.
Finance.
To finance.
I'd like to sign on to that if I could.
Adding Counselor Graney. To finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
50 from Counselor Bacon, order that the DPW and Suez repair the sunken manhole cover at Kane Road. Motion be receive, adopt, send to DPW and Suez.
Yes, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
It was a challenge for people getting to vote the other day.
We'll get them on that. 51's done. 52 for Counselor Hernandez, order that the handicap space at 266 Walnut be removed to ordinance.
Ordinance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If we could do 53 and 54 as a package.
Take up 53 and
Second.
54 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 53 from Council A, order that the General Superintendent of Department of Public Works and our contract Suez appear before the Public Service Subcommittee in March to review and prepare a plan for street sweep cleaning that will ensure that all streets are swept in a timely fashion to public service.
Yes, receive, adopt, send a copy to DPW, Suez, the mayor, and public service.
So motion is to receive, adopt, send to DPW, to Suez, the mayor, and a copy to public service.
Although it's going to committee, I'd like to discuss it for a while. Just kidding.
You
Yeah, I
can.
know you're
Go
kidding.
ahead.
Yeah, we know you're kidding.
54 from
Or
Council
Murphy over
A,
here.
order that the superintendent,
I was going to
Representative Vega, and Mass Highway develop a plan to ensure litter redemption, litter
Remediation.
remediation. I'm having a tough time tonight. For egress areas for I-91 and 391, these areas appear to have high amounts of litter at our gateways, so motion would be receive, adopt, same thing?
Yeah.
It's, okay, so both are to receive, adopt, to DPW, Suez, the mayor, and copy to public service.
Thank you.
All those
Mr.
in
President,
favor?
please add my name to that, okay?
Adding
Yeah,
to
please
both?
add my name. Yeah, thank you.
Could you add my name too on that one?
Counselor Soto, too, please.
No, Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
just be
Point
brief
of
then.
order, Mr. President.
Hold on. Counselor Tomlin, yeah.
For those of us who appreciate time, I'd like to get the clock changed up there.
Yeah. It's only 9. We got a couple more hours.
rush, it'll change back.
Counselor Tomlin.
I like this order, and I think a lot of us going up and down 91 from wherever down south, north and south, there's a lot of yellow bags out there. And I just have seen them picking up along 91, and I haven't seen much on 391, but I always wondered about that. But we always see those bags out there, and they seem like they stay out there for like weeks. I just wonder when they come and pick them up. I mean, they're out there working, in the medians, but when do they pick them up, so.
This is,
After they open up and spread out again. That's really, I'm just kidding.
these two orders are filed, I filed these on behalf of a good friend of the city of Holyoke, a good friend to all of ours. He'll name anonymous, but it's a person that knows all of us and it's been in this room many times. But I filed these two on his behalf.
There are no late files.
Oh, that's great.
Motion adjourned.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor? All opposed?
Come on, Jim, you can tell us who it is.